Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Here we go, Barflies. Welcome to the Barfly Tailgate Show. You already know it's done by Barflies for Barflies and all the other Bears fans out there. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers, first and foremost. We got a beautiful day. We got a little bit to talk about our Bears, and then we can spend the rest of our day with our loved ones. Had some press conferences to go over. Talked to some rookies and Matt Eberflus and Poles, which Poles has already made himself more available than Ryan Pace ever did, which is, I think, amazing. But we'll go around the room here and get this thing kicked off. First and foremost, our guy Jordan Silvera from the West Coast over there. How you doing today, brother? How was your week?
Excellent, AC. Thanks for asking. It's a great Sunday, good week of rookie minicamp, and as always, I'm hitting you here nice and early for the West Coast. It is 7:04 a.m.
Bright and early. And now we go to the far East Coast with my boy Chris Watts. Man, what's going on, C-Dub? What's up?
Hey, AC, Jordan. Yeah, everything's good, mate. The sun is shining over here in Old Blighty. The week's been the usual ducking and diving as usual, but it's always awesome to be talking Bears with you guys. It's always good. So, everything's good. I'm looking forward to the show, fellas.
Absolutely. So I've spent the last 24 to 48 hours kind of cramming for this because I didn't get to watch a ton of these press conferences and stuff in the last week, so I've just been trying to slam it and get it in, so I knew what the hell I was talking about a little bit today. And I'm sure you guys watched it all week or something.
No, if I'd be lying if I told you I wasn't grabbing a few of those interviews this morning.
I'm exactly the same, Jordan. Literally about 2 hours ago.
Yeah. So our guy KB is working today. I've sent him the link, and I was like, just hop in if you get a chance, brother, and I'll add him if he's able to make it. But I guess we'll go ahead and hop into some of these interviews. I've got them all loaded up over here. And, I guess, should we start with Poles and Eberflus, or should we start with some of the picks? How do you guys want to run it?
You know me. I'm willing to roll with whatever you want to go on. I got thoughts on all of them. Great little, sound bites that we can pull out and talk about in detail.
All right, I think we'll do some Eberflus and Poles first, and then we'll get into the draft picks after that. Start from the top down.
Sounds good.
So the first thing on here, because we've had a lot of people talking about, are they married to Justin Fields? Is Justin Fields their guy? All this and that. I'm not sure if this is from a press conference or if this is from Poles. He went on
the score.
He may have been on the score. I know he went on Cap and J Hood. Yes, I think it was yesterday, maybe the day before,
Yes.
and did an interview with them. I'm an ESPN 1000 listener just because it's easier. I can just hop on the iHeartRadio app and it'll play, or even their ESPN Chicago app, which is always great too. But we'll start right here with Fields, I guess.
My level of belief is sky high. And the one thing that you can tell, the way this guy's moving around the building right now, is he is locked on, he is focused, and he wants to be great. He's a first in, last out type guy. Not even type guy, he is that guy. And he's pulling this team together. And you can tell the fact he has in other people. I mean, all these guys they're showing up, they're going to work, they're doing extra with him. He's locked in with Luke. It's really cool to see. His presence is showing up, and he's starting to take over. And obviously, we got to get to camp, and we got to get to preseason games, and there's a long journey here, and there will be some ups and downs, especially with a new system that he's got to get through. And I know he's cleaning up some techniques, so it's not going to be perfect, but it's coming, and my belief is sky high with him.
It's hard to argue with that. I mean, and that was from. I believe that one was from the score. I didn't catch the name of the show there for the audio listeners. But I mean, and I said it when they brought him in and everyone was saying that, you know, the opening press conferences, they had Poles, Eberflus, and then Justin Fields finished it up. So to me, I don't even know why it was even a question, but obviously some Bears fans were worried about it, but he leaves little doubt, you know, that he believes in Fields there.
I mean, I personally don't think why it's an issue or why it's been discussed. I mean, he's obviously, before he's become the head coach, he's looked at Fields and thought, you know, he's going to be a part of my equation, what I'm going to do to the team. So I think it's just off-season nonsense. What, you know, I think it's just like one of them stories that goes around and it doesn't really mean anything because, you know, he's got to be all in on Fields because he's in his second year. So, yeah, I find it's just an off-season waffle what people like to stir up a little bit.
Yeah, you know, it's funny, Chris, AC, I can't, I mean, you can just see the smile on my face. I love hearing that because this is the first time we've really heard Ryan Poles endorse Justin Fields so heavily. This isn't, and I don't mean to go super deep here, but it wouldn't be Jordan Silver if it wasn't. So, you know, there's
Jordan, this is what we want.
I mean, there's a situation here, and you know, we can have this discussion now. We can have it at another time. But there's a growing narrative before this interview, of course, and this really helps kind of quash that. But there was a growing narrative that this regime, Ryan Poles, Matt Eberflus, didn't believe in Justin Fields. I think that the believe is the operative word. I don't think I've ever ascribed to the idea that they don't believe in him. I mean, we can go back just a little bit and say that when you take the GM job and the head coach job, you're understanding you're coming into a place with 6 draft picks. Well, it was 5 before you traded Khalil Mack. If you want that 6th pick and traded Khalil Mack, you're getting rid of a star and inheriting a ton of dead cap. You've got players like Nick Foles who you can't even trade for a bag of chips. And the roster doesn't have a lot of blue chip talent. It's in a bad spot. And so as much as we as fans say, oh, what a beautiful franchise, the Chicago Bears, anybody would love to work there. Absolutely. You and I see that. But if you have options like Ryan Poles, for example, who could have gone to Minnesota, who was a finalist in New York, who was a finalist last year in Carolina, when you choose the Chicago Bears job, one of the bright spots has to be Justin Fields. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't make sense to take a job and go, I like everything else and I'll deal with the cap and the bad picks, but forget that quarterback. I'm shooting him out the back door as soon as I can.
Right.
You know, so when you add that and then you consider this concern about, well, he didn't go out and sign all the biggest free agents on offense and they didn't draft receiver in the top of the second round. And it's led to this belief that they don't believe in him. And I come from a different place. And, you know, obviously I certainly can be critical of some of the processes and the way that they've done things. But really what it comes down to me is the idea that I don't know if they are prioritizing Justin Fields. And that triggers a lot of fans. They're not the same. I don't doubt that they believe in Justin Fields. I think it's a question of prioritizing him in the team building philosophy. And while I may not totally agree, and I think that they should certainly push all their chips in for Justin Fields, I can certainly understand the perspective of Ryan Poles saying, well, I'll be damned if I'm going to all of a sudden cater the entire way that I build this team around my quarterback in his second year. I have a fundamental philosophy that I'm going to build the team the way that I want to build it. And Justin Fields needs to fall in line like every other individual on this team. And if he finds a way to succeed in that, there's no problem at all. And I certainly am going to support him and come out publicly and say he's the first guy in, last guy out. He's a leader. He's doing all the right things. There is room for mistakes. But really, I think that's kind of the crux of the issue here, that, this narrative that's being spun. But I certainly agree and think it's valuable. And like I said, you saw me come on with a huge smile. That's the first time we've really seen and heard the ringing endorsement of him to say, my belief in him is sky high. He's the leader of this team. To even backtrack on some of his words and say, no, not a type of guy. He is that guy. I mean, I don't know how any fan could not love hearing that. It helps, quell some of the concerns.
Yeah. And there were some free agents and draft picks that I definitely wanted to help Justin Fields. But I feel like Poles is looking at this from, 30,000 feet and saying that's not the only issue on this team. When we draft secondary players in the second round, for obvious reasons. If anyone watched the Baltimore game, the Pittsburgh game, the San Francisco game, that's 3 wins that we should have won if our defense had held on at the end. So it made sense to me why they went with defensive players. And a lot of people, and just because you draft a player that high does not necessarily mean that they will pan out to be they played their board, in my opinion. They weren't going to reach for Bernard Raymond, who was arguably the best offensive lineman left on the board when they got into the second. Well, he ended up dropping to the third. Yep. Teron Armstead was the 3rd round pick. I've said this many times on the airwaves here. Bates, that everybody wanted, was undrafted. In Kansas City, the offensive line that Poles just rebuilt. I think they went and grabbed Orlando Brown Jr., who was, I believe, a 3rd round pick or something like that. I don't think he was that high of a pick. They grabbed a 6th round guard and plugged him in. They grabbed
paid Tooney, who was a 3rd round guard.
Right. So just because you grab your offensive lineman earlier doesn't necessarily mean that they're better. You have to trust your scouts and trust the way you see them moving forward. And a lot of people take issue with the Velus Jones pick, but the more I listen to this guy and the more I do research, I think Greg Gabriel said right here that he's like 6 months older than Devin Hester was when he was drafted. So everyone wants to be like, why we have a 25-year-old wide receiver? Well, if you get a 21-year-old wide receiver and he doesn't pan out in 3 years, then you're in the same spot at the same age. I mean, you may not get as many years out of this guy just because he's 25, but I don't know. I like the Velus Jones pick, and I thought it was.
I think you probably have an interview with Velus Jones where we're gonna kind of get into some of the talking points there, and he was another bright spot, I think, of the interviews that happened over the last couple of days, where some of the questions that, and credit to the media interviewing these rookies, but I think that he was, put in some tough situations, asked about his age, and I think he responded exceptionally well. And, there's much more, as much as it may have been a negative narrative that he doesn't believe in Justin Fields, he being Ryan Poles, I think that there's a ton of optimism to be seen, even with, some questionable picks. Like some may still be down on the Velus Jones pick. And I'll be the first to say at the time when he was picked, I was a little bit confused and bewildered. And I sat, reflected on it for about 6 to 8 hours and thought about, okay, well, what do they see in this guy? What am I missing? And even I've kind of come to grips to understand. And I assure you here, it's not just navy and orange goggles that, okay, I can see what the player brings. And the idea that in the 3rd round, and as much as we all want to sit here and say the 3rd round is a high round, it's not. It's the middle of the draft. And to get a guy that can do all facets of the game, from returning to catching screens to running the ball to playing receiver to playing outside, inside, to get a guy that has that many facets to his game in the third round, it's hard to argue the value there.
Yeah. Yeah, and the Bears, they had some press conferences yesterday as well. I don't have those clips because it was just so recent. But they talked to the special teams coordinator, and he talked about Velus and how he's able to plug him in. And a lot of the undrafted guys that we picked up have returning abilities in their background as well. I believe the wide receiver from Liberty, is it Shaw or Shea? Do you know, Jordan?
I don't. I want to say it's Shaw, but I could be wrong.
Well, apparently he's been flashing a little bit in the rookie minicamp, as well as Eberflus said he was happy with the offensive line. But to continue speaking with pieces on this team, Robert Quinn was a big talking point this offseason. People were like, with Mac gone, is Quinn gone next? What's the ideal with that? And I've got a clip here of Poles talking about Quinn and his future as well. So I'll go ahead and pop that in, and then we'll discuss afterwards.
The one thing you get with Robert, as when you watch that tape, is he embodies everything that Coach Eberflus wants in terms of rushing the passer, the effort, the motor, tenacity. So right now he's a part of the plans. I'm excited about Robert. In terms of moves and all of that, this league's crazy. I can't rule anything out and give absolutes, but I want him on the team. And, we'll see how everything happens as we move forward, but I'm excited about him.
So, he didn't roll out a trade there, but he said he wants him on this team. So, obviously, he's going to need a hell of a deal that really knocks his socks off to get rid of a Quinn. And,
yeah, I think you're spot on. Like I'm chuckling at the end because he's like, "Well, I can't speak in absolutes in layman's terms. Yeah, if somebody wants to come and offer me a second round pick for my almost 20 sacks a year guy from last year, I'd be stupid not to take it. But I'm certainly not looking to ship off the guy that set the franchise record in sacks last year on a team that needs to rush the passer."
Yeah, I'm really glad that they kept Quinn. It were a player what I didn't want to trade at all. Just as like you said, Jordan, just due to his stats of last year. And even if we just get like a couple of more years out, we've got the new guy Dominique Robinson coming in. He could learn so much from Quinn. And I think with Matt gone as well, I just think we needed to keep him.
Yeah, I agree. And just everything that Jordan said. Setting the franchise, or did he set it or tied? I think he tied it, correct? The franchise record in sacks.
No, he passed it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because he did the record break thing when he did the sack. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
So he set the record for sacks in a season, and everyone. I loved Mac. I have Mac's jersey. My son has Mac's jersey. Don't get me wrong, but everyone was always like, "Well, Mac's getting double teamed. He's getting triple teamed. He's getting chipped." When Mac wasn't on the field, who do you think was getting those double teams, triple teams, and chips? It was Robert Quinn, and he was still winning. And he was still winning, absolutely. And that's what it comes down to me. The guy is tenacious and just he's a hell of a pass rusher, and I like the guy. And he's a good old-fashioned Southern boy. When I hear him talk, he's just sounds like he comes straight off the farm to me. And Chris touched on a big point there when he was talking about our, Dominique Robinson that we grabbed in the, I think 5th round. He's only been playing defensive end for 2 years. So you come in and you've got that type of experience of a 32-year-old pass rusher who's done it multiple different ways and multiple different defenses for different teams. I mean, all that experience just, it breeds success. He's gonna learn a thing or two.
Yeah. Actually, sorry, Jordan, you go, mate.
No, Chris, please go ahead.
I just watched the interview this morning with Dominique Robinson, and he sounds like he's a really intelligent guy. He sounds like he's going to be one of these players. What he's going to learn quickly, and he seemed like you were a pretty high IQ guy. I think just done a degree in sociology or something like that. And I think listening to a lot of the interviews this morning, a lot the guys seem to have a good IQ in them. They seem to be sort of intelligent guys, which always impresses me, because I just think, well, that means you're going to be more teachable. And obviously, hopefully, you got a high football IQ as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've noticed that with a lot of the interviews. A lot of these guys, they sound like they have a high football IQ. They come from, regardless of the background they come from, they all have shown obvious determination to get to this level of play. And yeah, I think that was an excellent comment, Chris.
Thank you very much.
I mean, just to kind of close this up, at least with the Robert Quinn scenario, I think, again, this is one of those things where naturally he's going to be asked about Robert Quinn on the radio, because it's been a narrative that's, but again, that this team's not going anywhere. They're destined for a top 5 pick and all this other bullshit that I'm not totally a fan of. But, it's the general idea that, hey, if you're willing to ship off Khalil Mack, a proven name at a position, for a second, and you're basically admitting this isn't the year to win a Super Bowl, why wouldn't you ship off Robert Quinn? And it's certainly a worthy question. That's where he's saying, yeah, if somebody wants to, blow my hair back and offer me a deal I can't refuse, I'll do it. But at the same time, I have to field a competent pass rush unit. I'm a believer that the secondary, and this isn't a novel or revelatory idea, but for those that aren't aware, coverage sets the blitz package that's from the earliest levels of football to the NFL. And so I'm a believer that the secondary would get the 51% of control, in my opinion, over the edge rush. That's not a popular opinion, but that's the way I see it. But at the same time, to have a really true great defense, you need the secondary and the front to play together and play complementary football. And sure, if you can get a second-round pick for Robert Quinn, go ahead and send him off. But at that point, let's just play that role for, a minute. Then you're fielding a pass rush unit that includes a guy that's been playing D-end for a year and a half in Dominique Robinson, Travis Gibson, who's literally took like almost a red shirt his first year in the league to try and understand how to play stand-up. And I actually think he'll be fine going back to having his hand in the dirt. It's what he did at Tulsa. But he's still coming on and not been a starter until last year when Mack was out and has had to kind of play spot role and has been fine. Al-Qadim Muhammad was part of a rotation with Kwity Paye and Deo Odeyingbo and all these other guys, Ben Benogu in Indianapolis. And now you're hoping that he's going to generate a ton of rush. These are your guys that you're trying to field to truly get upfield and rush the passer. And you've also heard Eberflus say that these guys are going to be on a heavy rotation.
Yes.
To ideally keep them fresh. We're not in the business of shipping off guys that get almost 20 sacks a year for pennies on the dollar when I also have an interest to get after the passer and I need waves of D linemen to ship in there. Shipping off a valuable body like Robert Quinn, who, as Chris has said, can even teach some of the young guys, isn't in the best interest of the team. You have to truly make me an offer I can't refuse.
Right. And I mean, they're all about learning from the past. They already brought in Charles Tillman this week. And
yes, I
think Eberflus said, text your boys, tell them to come talk to us. So I love that they're digging into that past that I believe Phil Emery kind of broke that relationship when he was here, and they started building it back up after he left. And I think these guys are definitely digging back into that past of the great Chicago Bears defenses and whatnot. But going back to the draft, we picked up a ton of picks in day 3 and used a lot of them on offensive line. So we may not have grabbed a top one in the second round, but we did grab several of them late and let them come in and compete. And and I've got another clip here about Poles when he was asked about the offensive line on Mullion Hall is where these clips are coming from, by the way.
Has any of the guys currently on the roster kind of surprised you in terms of what you're looking for in the scheme, that maybe they can be better than you imagined? And is that something you'll be looking for in this camp, somebody to surprise you in terms of the way they fit into the scheme?
Yeah, first of all, they're working hard. They're improving. They're taking coaching. So that's obviously a positive. And if you're an O-line guy like I am, which it sounds like you are, you know that we're not going to be able to tell much about these offensive linemen until we put pads on. So I love the work that they're putting in. They're doing everything right. They're adapting to the new scheme. They're changing, their bodies. everything that they're supposed to. They're competing. So, but listen, we all know up front when the pads come on, that's when we really see what's going on.
So that, I mean, he's kind of just talking about competition, let these guys come in and compete, and may the best man win. We're going to have the best 5 out there, I believe. I do wonder, and I heard some people ask about this. I was watching a press conference or something, and I saw him in the chat. Is Whitehair, is he kind of on the hot seat because they brought in all this competition, or you guys think, Whitehair, he's at least good for this year? What do you guys think?
Chris, go ahead. I mean, I'll kind of follow you up on the back end there.
I mean, I can't really go sort of into specifics about Whitehair, but I just like the idea that, there's more competition, throughout the offensive line. And I think that's what's been desperately needed, because that's the main thing that we've all been talking about for years is, well, especially the last couple of years, is the lack of quality on the offensive line. So I do think he could be on the hot seat, and I think that could be a really good thing, because hopefully that'll raise his game. Good competition always raises other people's games who are in a unit. So I think it could only be a positive thing for the offensive line as a whole group.
Yeah, and this is, a multi-layered topic about the offensive line in general. To answer your question first, AC, I think everybody, and I mean literally everybody, Lucas Patrick included, is on the hot seat. I think this is truly an effort to say, look, and this goes back to the Justin Fields thing. May not necessarily be prioritizing Justin Fields, but I don't have some death wish on him. I want him upright and standing tall in the pocket. So I don't care who the 5 are, but the 5 have to be the right 5 to protect the young guy and number 1 that's throwing the ball. And then you add in the fact, and I will, I was mentioning I had a few criticisms on the process later on in the draft, and I have serious questions about, was it more of a buckshot? You're taking more of a quantity over quality approach in selecting your offensive lineman. But I also want to give deference that I played some offensive line, but I'm by no means Ryan Poles or Ian Cunningham. So if I trust 2 guys to understand offensive linemen and what they're looking for, it'd be Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham. So as much as I may have concerns about the quality and who they picked and were they going quantity over quality, the one thing that, a lot of fans need to remember is, sure, I guess you could have signed a bunch of UDFAs on offensive line had you gone in other positions. But to hold a rookie minicamp, you needed 5 rookie bodies to play offensive line. And this is going back to the voluntary minicamp before the draft. They didn't even necessarily have a full offensive line of depth. They were playing Sam Mustipher at right guard because they didn't want to throw Dakota Dozier out there. And now you're going to your rookie minicamp. You would not have had a single-bodied field. You would have had to put out all UDFAs there. And so part of the reason for selecting 4 offensive linemen, Doug Kramer, Ja'Tyre Carter, Braxton Jones, and I'm forgetting one of them, but and Zachary Thomas. It's those guys that ultimately fill the bodies of rookie minicamp and allow them to see guys at different positions. And that's another beautiful thing about this offensive line that they're drafting and building, is that they picked a lot of guys that had positional versatility. Ja'Tyre Carter was a tackle who's moving into guard. Zach Thomas, the same situation. Doug Kramer's a center-only prospect, but I'm pretty high on him. And then Braxton Jones looks to be a tackle-only guy, but because of his length, presents himself pretty well as a prospect in that area. So, again, I think it's everybody's on the hot seat. Let's get the best 5 out there to protect Justin Fields, but especially in this time, and I think it was a salient point that he brought up, is you're not going to be able to do a lot of evaluating right now until the pads come on. And this is, something I picked up on from Alan Williams, the defensive coordinator, but he mentioned, look, it's really early and you're not going to be able to glean a lot of real information. They're playing football in pajamas essentially out there. So really you're looking for how quick are you getting off the ball? How quick are you picking up the playbook? You're not necessarily getting your hands into a chest plate of a guy and pushing him back, but in the limited work that we can do, are you able to generate displacement and really dig him out and push him upfield, even though he's trying to push against you? And, picking up the little pieces that you can.
Yeah. And I think they talked to Braxton Jones and is it Ja'Tyre or Ja'Tyre Carter yesterday?
It's a good question. I've always just been saying Ja'Tyre, but I know he had come out on Twitter and said something like, "Don't put the apostrophe after the T" or something of that sort. But I don't think that you're doing the worst service to call him Jatiree. I think it's fine.
Yeah. So I think they talked to them yesterday, so I don't have the clips on here, but I went and listened to them this morning, and someone said in the chat the way these guys sound like they have a high football IQ, and I definitely got that from those two guys. You know, they were both able to like Braxton Jones was talking about the difference between talking to NFL coaches and college coaches and just the language, you know, the type of fronts, you know, they're talking about the different types of fronts and stuff, and the ability to pick it up. And I think Jatir talked about being in his books even back in school, and that's kind of carried over to here, and he's got a chip on his shoulder, you know, coming from a HBCU. And he had a great story about his brother who passed away in a car wreck in his like 5 days before he graduated high school. So, you know, he said, you know, he's always with me. He's on my heart. And so the Bears really picked high IQ guys and high quality people. Character.
Yeah.
That's the word I was looking for. You know, they didn't just grab like, this dude's a badass on the field, but he's not the greatest person. It seems like when they went through their interview process, they were like, they were looking for good people and good players. And that's really what you need to change a culture. And let's be honest, we're working on that, you know, rebuilding. Even though they won't say rebuilding, I think Poles talked about it being like Poles talked about it being
home improvement,
a remodel more than a rebuild. And he talked about that on Cap and J Hood when I listened to it. Basically, the way he said it was, well, we're really not ripping it down to the studs like a rebuild would be, because there's still pieces here that we like a Justin Fields, I'm assuming David Montgomery, you know, Roquan Smith, guys that they've all mentioned in interviews and stuff. So that's basically why he won't say it's a rebuild. He says it's a remodel. But I feel like they're on the right track. And they're saying everything good now. I mean, we'll see when they get on the grass, as John Fox used to say, but they're saying all the right things right now.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there, AC. Just particularly in the idea that this all sounds like hoopla, but I mean, again, this is really, when we're talking about them playing football in pajamas, you're trying to pull up at whatever you can to understand these players. And the one thing that really stood out to me, whether it's been Kyler Gordon or Jaquan Brisker, and, you know, all the way down to Carter and Braxton Jones and Dominique Robinson, is that it's very apparent that they're picking building blocks of the roster, maybe not so much in even talent. I think, and, you know, again, I'm not in the building, I don't know the coaches, but all you've continued to hear is that we are bringing in players that we have great teachers. They're going to teach them how to play the game. But you need these guys that are true foundational building blocks in their character, in their morale. And the thing that was just so apparent, whether it be Velus Jones talking about he's all about his business, or Dominique Robinson saying, look, I'm married, I don't really party, I just focus on, you know, switching positions, to Jatiree Carter sitting there and saying, look, he was critical of himself on the first day, said I didn't get off the ball quick enough and I need to be better, but I also did some good things, and I'm, you know, here to try and make a name. And coming from a small school, small town, Chicago is very different, but I'm here to compete. I hate losing more than I like winning. You know, it's down to Braxton Jones sitting there and saying, everybody's trying to take everybody's job. And I'm here to learn the position and I'm here to learn the playbook. But as soon as I put on the pads, I'm playing and trying to finish people to take someone's job. And these are the guys that maybe you don't love the names, don't have the flash that you're looking for, or they didn't come from SEC schools. But when you hear them talk, you can see a very clear line that runs through them all about what they're about, the maturity level, their mindset on how they're approaching their job every day. And this is a very stark difference from a lot of guys that you saw on the team. And, you know, we won't poke holes at too many names, looking at you, Eddie Jackson, and a few others, but there's a very clear shift here and understanding of these are the guys and the culture that we're building and the character we want to bring in. And everybody's job is on notice outside of maybe Justin Fields, truly. I think there's a situation where if Khalil Herbert looks like the best running back because he's hitting the zone better, we're going to go with the hot hand, and he's the guy.
Yeah.
And sure, Mooney will be out there because Mooney works hard, but if you slip up in any moment, we're trying to bring in competition to take your job. That's how you improve the roster. Competition creates and fosters the best out of people. And if you get complacent, that competition will supersede you.
Yeah.
I mean, I completely agree, Jordan, because I was watching the interview with Jaquan Brisker, and he just seems like a guy what's just absolutely bang on what you just said, Jordan. He seems like a guy who wants to take control or wants to be a leader. So if we can use him as one of our sort of founding stones to build around on the defense of him and Roquan Smith, I think that'd be really good for the team overall, because they all seem to be quite high character guys, and like you said, a lot of them saying, I'm not really into partying, I'm not that in my sort of thing, I just want to. I mean, I know you're going to say that anyway because you're in like an interview situation, but it's refreshing to hear that, especially how some of the NFL players act, once they get paid. I find that quite a refreshing change of stance from players, really.
Well, and before we kind of wrap this up, Chris, I can't help but think about it. Just hit my head. This exact time last year, there was a player named Daz Newsome who came in, and I love Daz Newsome. There's a funny guy, but they're talking to him in his rookie mini camp, and the conversation about, y'all don't have any Waffle Houses out here, and what's the good steakhouse? Where do I need to eat?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to see the city and show me what you got out here, and all that's cool, and there's a time for that. But just think about it. We're talking about the exact same time period. And you have Daz Newsome worried about the city, and I want to go see what's good to eat and tell me what fun there is to be had. And then you have guys like Dominique Robinson that's like, well, look, man, I'm married, and I'm just trying to learn how to be a defensive lineman, and I'll see the city when I can. You've seen even Carter saying, I come from a small city, and this
I think
is very
one
different
stoplight.
one stoplight in the city. This is very different to me, but I'm focused right now on playing, and I'll figure out all the cool spots and everything later. But right now I have a job to do, which is I want to compete, and I need to learn the playbook. I need to learn the hits philosophy and playing with intensity and finishing. And I don't have time to worry about where the Waffle House is or what the new got to go to Gibson's or anything like that. It just doesn't exist.
Well, I mean, when I'm in Chicago, I'm usually there to eat, so I can understand Daz Newsome.
You and I are Chicago Bears,
but I'm not an athlete either.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you and I are part of the Chicago Bears roster.
Yeah. So talking about competition, we got Eberflus here talking about his goals for minicamp. I'm not sure if it's in here or not, but Eberflus talked about how he was impressed with the offensive line play in their minicamp, which is great. They're all rookies. We brought in undrafted free agent dudes to fill. I think the guy from Florida was plugged in at right tackle. I had seen the lineup for how they had the offensive line set up. His name was Gene DeLance. Yeah. So I don't know much
I don't know
about
everybody's
him.
first name, but their last name.
I only watched Florida once this year, and it was when we beat them. So I didn't pay too much attention to who they had at offensive tackle, to be honest.
Go Cats, mate. Go Cats.
Yeah, that's right. Go Cats. I'm going to plug in Eberflus here and let him talk about his goals on minicamp.
The rookies we're just throwing everything at them, in terms of what the simplicity of the installs are going to be, for this day and then the next day, and we kind of slow down them for the last day, just to see if they can retain it. For us, it's more about, can you function as a pro, mentally first. Can you get it? Can you get the schemes and then get the formations, the motions down, and then can you operate and make the play? Then can you listen to instructions? Can you practice the right way? Because you got to be able to stay on your feet and practice the right tempo, and do the things the right way. And I think guys did a good job with that. But that's really what we're looking for each rookie at this time.
So, I mean, basic minicamp stuff. They're trying to see who can retain this, who they want to keep around. I'm assuming for the actual minicamp and all that other stuff this summer. And I think Eddie Jackson talked about The defense being easy to pick up, like he doesn't have to think, which is great. You don't want guys to overthink and worry if they're in the right spot or if they're doing the right thing. And I think that's great. That was one of the biggest things I liked about Eberflus and what he said there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, the one thing I took away from that interview was that they want players to like do things at a speed, even like when they're going between drills. They want like a good pace in practice all the time, and also, he seemed to be quite happy about how the offensive line performed in the minicamp, which is obviously positive. And also, I think I heard about the defense as well, that he wants everybody running to the ball gets dropped. He wants some guy in it and then running downfield with it. So. Yeah, all sounds positive so far. I know it's early, but it does sound positive.
Right.
Yeah, AC, I think you really you teed me up a little bit on a topic I'm a little hot on, which is the idea that, and it's about Eddie Jackson's comment, and you'll see where this kind of trickles down even to rookie minicamp. But a lot of people love what Vic Fangio and his system represent, and I'm all for it. I can totally concede that the 2-high 3-4 system that Vic Fangio runs with a lot of creepers and sim pressures and fire zone blitzes and all of the sexy plays that they have, it does require a ton of heady players that are covering for each other. If we're dropping Robert Quinn into coverage and we're sending Eddie Jackson on a safety blitz, how does Roquan have to cover the middle zone that Eddie would have been playing to rob the route? And I can go into all the details there, but the idea, and this is something that I was really hoping and campaigning for when, the old regime was fired. And granted, I was looking for a little bit different of a scheme, but I don't have anything against Eberflus' scheme. And that's something that we can talk about another time about. You've literally seen this scheme in Chicago and how it works. So there's much positivity to be gleaned from that. But the key and core tenets of this, and this extends down to the rookies and Eddie Jackson and everybody in between, is this defense is based not so much on the art of deception where you're rolling the safeties post snap and you're dropping a first level player into coverage and you're bringing somebody down from the second level, and we're creating simmed pressures where we're bringing 7 people into the box and 3 are backing out. And it's not so much based on deception. It's based on the idea of, it's a very simple defense. You're running cover 2, cover 1, quarters, and your job is to play with fast instincts. Mm-hmm. Run to the ball, try to punch the ball out, make sure tackles, play with effort. You can't play at 100% speed and effort if you're worried about the intricacies of, well, I'm supposed to play this zone here when this guy drops. And again, this is no shot on Vic Fangio. That defense is wonderful when it works.
Oh, yeah.
And certainly, I will even admit, I think it reaches higher than this defensive scheme at its peak. This is a reason why we've seen Matt Eberflus' defense hanging around top 10. It never will, because of its simplicity, when it's ran well, it never quite gets to the level of those exotic defenses, but at the same time, it certainly doesn't drop off the way we saw last year when you don't have those specialized roles. And so what we see here is a defense that's relatively easy to pick up on. And they're just telling guys, go play football. And that's the idea here in rookie minicamp that you're hearing Matt Eberflus talk about, is right now it's about learning the playbook and it's about making the right decisions on the play. Like if you're supposed to take a bucket step to the right and you all of a sudden think we're running sweep to the left, that's a problem. Mm-hmm. But make sure you look like you have the FBI, the football intelligence on the field, and play within the philosophies that we're installing. Don't loaf.
Yeah.
Even if you're not a roster player, like, hey, you're trying to come into the roster, you're a camp invite.
Yeah.
You know the playbook, you're following the philosophy, and you're a player that we think highly enough to at least bring back as a special teams camp body that maybe Coach Hightower wants as a special teams player on roster day. That, he even coached, and we don't probably have this clip, but Coach Hightower, special teams coordinator, talked about how his most rewarding moment is getting guys that are just special teams players. And the shining moment for him is when they make it to a starting position on the roster. And like a guy like Eli Hicks, for example, is the guy I see that with. Mm-hmm. He's probably going to have to start out just knowing the playbook because he's limited right now in his leg, learning the philosophy. And then when he gets a chance, when he's healthy, playing at full speed on special teams and earning a role. And that is really what's encompassing this time in rookie minicamp, is learning the plays and playing hard, playing instinctively, playing fast, and following through with the philosophies of not loafing, picking up the ball on the ground. Everybody runs to the tackle, things of that sort.
Right. Yeah. And it really, just listening to you talk there was reminding me of a Belichick thing, just do your job, which is, it's so simple, yet it's so perfectly encompassing of what needs to be done. And they spoke with Kyler Gordon this week, our first pick. He talked about meeting Charles Tillman, being a little starstruck, and watching his tape at UW and stuff. He had a lot of things to say about Washington, which there's been quite a few damn good DBs come out of there lately. I know LSU likes to call themselves DBU, but Washington might be kind of trying to push themselves into that role as well. And I think he's ready to come in and just do his job. So I've got a clip here. I guess they asked him if he was ready for the NFL, and I'm going to go ahead and roll that, and we'll talk about it after.
Yeah, I feel pretty prepared. Are very prepared. Coming from Washington, just like everything that they've taught me in the way that I prepare myself game to game and person to person and just every category. So I just know that transition from my preparation transition is the same thing I'm going to carry over to the NFL, and then while adding more tools and more stuff that I can learn. So I feel pretty good about going in there and shaking things up for sure.
So, I mean, you heard it right there in the clip. He loves what he learned at Washington, and it's proven in the NFL. Growing up, I was always against Pac-12 players, and even I had a friend of mine from the Army who messaged me when we drafted Kyler Gordon. He was like, "I'm sorry, bro," and I was like, "What are you talking about? We needed a corner. We got the best one on the board." And he was like, "I would have taken Booth," and I was like, "Well, technically, I would have too, but." And then I talked to him about the hernia surgery stuff, and he was just like, "Well, I'm going to take Booth over anybody from the Pac-12." And I was like, "I'm okay, bro." But I think Kyler Gordon is ready to come in and play hard and earn his keep. He can play inside and outside. They talked about that. We got a new number 6. That number is starting to get passed around a little bit. I don't know if he's going to stick with that number or if that's going to change, but I mean, I like Kyler Gordon. I like everything I've heard from him. They talked about on draft night, they talked about his dance in his background. And my dad had always told me that was a thing that Barry Sanders did that made him so great, was he took a lot of dance in his background. And that's why he was able to dance around all the defenders, because he damn sure didn't have the old line blocking worth of shit in front of him. But I like the Kyler Gordon pick. What are you guys thinking about everything you've heard from him?
Yeah. I mean, I agree what you said there, see, especially regarding the dance thing. It made me chuckle because when I was playing, we used to do aerobics to try and get that sort of, balance and all that sort of thing. And this is going back 30 odd years. So I'm quite excited about that. But no, everything I've heard, what he said, I really like. I did hear that he did cramp up quite a lot over the weekend. So I don't know if that's any sort of like fitness issue or just because they haven't really been doing much football. It's all been, working towards the draft. But he sounds confident. He sounds like obviously I'm not a massive college ball guy, but he does sound like he's come from a really good organization at Washington, and he sounds like he's coached really well.
Yeah, it's funny you're mentioning that, Chris, because I laugh. I mean, I guess sure we could harp on Kyler Gordon having cramps in the weekend, and sure, why isn't everybody getting cramps? But to me, I expect that, and get ready for training camp. I expect this to be run of the mill. You have, Courtney Cronin, ESPN reporter, had already said after the first day that this was one of the most rigorous rookie mini camps she'd ever seen. And when you hear Flus talk to all the players when they get drafted, he always says, "Bring your track shoes. We're going to be running a lot." And I'm not surprised to hear guys kind of falling out on day one going, "Holy crap, I didn't know I was going to be running this much and pushing this hard. And you're telling me I can't loaf and I can't change my speed. So I'm going 100 miles an hour at all times. And holy crap, my calves are ready to explode." And I expect this to happen a lot. And it's not a big issue. I mean, this is the thing we talk about Andrew Booth, for example, who I was a big Andrew Booth fan, but it's cramps are part of the game. You get an IV, you rest it up, eat bananas, get potassium. That's not a problem. It's not an injury. I don't even think it's necessarily a lack of preparation. It's when you're pushing your body to the outer limits. And that's what Flus has talked about time and time again. A lot of players are going to be pushed to areas that they've never been to before. And I mean, all respect to Kyler Gordon in Washington and AC. I mean, you're, as a California guy, I know I don't live in Washington, but you're picking up to my heartstrings of the Pac-12. And I love LSU. I think they are DBU in some respect, but people really should start putting some respect on Washington University and the DBs that they produce. And that's not just Trent McDuffie and Kyler Gordon. It's Elijah Molden. Thinking of some of the other DBs that have come out in recent years. Washington does. I mean, Buda Baker. They will. The list just keeps rolling on. They're a university that coaches up their DBs exceptionally well, and are really technique driven. And in Kyler Gordon's case, I actually think that's an area that he needs to improve in. It's just his technique. They kind of were able to recruit a freak athlete who has a dancing background and can do ballet and has extreme flexibility, and it's just about coaching up his technique. And I think when you've seen and heard everything in that interview from Kyler Gordon, he's ready to play. He's an exceptional zone corner, and they're probably going to play him that way. And then to add a little bit of insight from a later interview with Coach Defense Coordinator Alan Williams talking about, he was asked a great question, I think again by Courtney Cronin, about will he be playing inside? He has inside versatility. And the remark was, it's a lot to be putting onto a rookie's plate for right now. So before we even consider having him move inside and follow receivers that transition and move into the slot, we're going to be primarily focusing on playing him on the outside. Whether it be left or right will determine once we get Jalen Johnson in the building. But he's going to be an outside corner specifically. And then once we feel like he's properly figured that job out, that role is playing it exceptionally well, and we think he can take on some more information, then we may talk about him playing in the slot and following bigger receivers in and things of that sort that may be too big for, let's say, like a Tavon Young.
Right. Yeah, I'm excited for the talent that we're bringing in, trying to fix this secondary. I loved Kyler Gordon. I didn't think he'd be there in the second round. Honestly, I thought he would end up in Kansas City or somewhere deep in that lower of the first round. So I was excited that we grabbed him. And then with our second pick in the second round, Jordan, you're a huge fan of Jaquan Brisker.
Nobody a bigger fan of Brisker than me. I promise.
I had seen him on there, but to me, safety wasn't as big a need because I felt like we could pick up a free agent or something to plug in there. But the Bears, like I said, they played their board. They thought this safety was better than dipping into the next tier of wide receiver at that point. And I mean, what can I do about it? I don't get paid millions of dollars to make those decisions.
I will tell you, I am ready to get ratioed. Like, you people in the chat, you can save this video for if I am not one to just take bold takes. I can substantiate all my opinions, but when I feel something with conviction, I am not going to hold back. And I'm going to say, I mean, this is a situation that I feel, sure, I would love to have picked up a perimeter receiver and an offensive tackle and yada, yada. But the reality is, and I'm telling you, I feel this with deep conviction in my bones, is that with those first two picks, and you consider having a true legitimate talent at strong safety, can that re-elevate Eddie Jackson back up to where he's not trying to do 700 things at once? And Jalen Johnson, who had a great year but needed a true Robin beside him and not the only DB that can cover that, he has to follow Devontae Adams inside. And, Eddie Jackson has to come down in the nickel because Duke Shelley and Kendall Vildor can't play the position well enough. I think when you really look at this secondary, having a true competent corner opposite Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon, having Jaquan Brisker come in and elevating Eddie Jackson, having a true tight end eraser like Dane Cruikshank, being able to play guys like Kendall Vildor or Duke Shelley, Thomas Graham in more of a specialized backup role, playing spot duty. I genuinely believe that this secondary is whole. It's filled out. It is fixed. Sure, I know that's the hot take. It's like, you haven't even seen them play a down yet. How can you say that? And this really goes back to the roots of what I've been talking about, that you've seen this defense already in Chicago. And I'm not even talking about this specific one. I can go back to Indianapolis, where I'm being frank here. Kenny Moore's an awesome player. Kenny Moore's the best nickel in the game. Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon are better than any of Rock Ya-Sin or Xavier Rhodes. Eddie Jackson even Eddie Jackson, when he's compromised, is a better player than Kari Willis or Blackman there at safety. Jaquan Brisker is a better prospect coming out and has a more complete game than Kari Willis or Blackman that they've played at safety, or Odom that was there as well. And that was a defense in Indianapolis that was top 10-ish with subpar talent.
Right.
And then you consider Eberflus coming over, and Indianapolis was gracious enough to say, yeah, take all of your guys. If you want to bring Gabe Borgonzi over and Alan Williams, go for it. And Alan Williams was the DB coach. And now you're telling the former DB coach that he is the defensive coordinator who's calling this scheme, and his specialty is the secondary. And you've now filled it out with legitimate talent. I feel with utter conviction that this secondary will be amongst the best in the league. Whether we're talking 5th, 6th, 7th, 10th, that's a different question. We need to see them play games. I'm sure that there will be some bumpy roads for Brisker and Gordon as they learn the game. But when you consider everything that you've seen with this defense, what the scheme can be in Chicago previously under Lovey to what it was in Indianapolis with subpar talent, again, subpar is a little harsh, but just not what they have here in Chicago. And now you consider what you're putting forth here with the talent. It's hard for me to not look at it and say that you have one of the most formidable secondaries in the league. That if you're a quarterback, where are you attacking? Where's the weak point? Oh, I guess I'll hit my slot corner. Oh, you mean against Tavon Young, one of the best nickels when he's healthy? I don't look at the Ravens defense as a slouch defense. There's a reason why Tavon Young is their nickel. So where's the weak spot? Where are you attacking?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds great.
I like the sound of that.
And you were just talking about Jaquan filling that strong safety role and allowing Eddie to play the center field, which we've been hoping for since Adrian Amos left, really.
Yep.
And we have Clipper here talking about Jaquan, talking about his style of play. And after that, I'll probably click right into it about Jaquan, talking about what he has to prove coming here to play.
Old school. I feel like I'm an old school safety. I feel like, I love being physical, but at the same time, I can show my versatility in the back end. I could attack the ball, I could cover, and then obviously in the box, I love to hit, love to tackle, and take on blocks. So I love being around the football. So I'll have to say being in the box, just because I'm, I can make tackles right there and things like that. But, if coach, asked me to go back there, I would. That I could pick up on the playbook fast enough and just play fast. I think that's very important. Coming in, high expectations, but also showing it on the field. Showing that I'm in shape, and then showing that I could learn the plays. Good or bad days, just always being a leader. Just always letting people know that you're there, but just having your teammates be comfortable. Really just out there just trying coach everybody up or coach myself up. Just always trying to be a coach, and then transfer to here. Just be myself. Don't be no one else, but just carry that leadership to the Chicago Bears also. I've been used to being a leader, so just come over here, learn under these guys. But at the same time, I could be a leader also.
So, I mean, he said everything I wanted to hear. Playing down in the box, making tackles, being physical. You love to hear that from a safety. It wasn't in that clip, but they asked him. I don't know if they asked him what some of his favorite safeties were in the league, or if it was who he tried to model his game after. But he mentioned Sean Taylor, the former Washington Redskin, Ronnie Lott, the 49er Hall of Famer, and I believe he mentioned Troy Polamalu as well. All hard-hitting safeties
That's right.
That would just knock your block off, and I love to hear that.
He mentioned Ed Reed as well, and I mean I know a lot of people don't remember Ed Reed, but Ed Reed was a hitter too. I mean
Ed Reed is my favorite safety of all time. There was a NFL group that I'm in on Facebook, and someone was like, "Who's the best safety?" A lot of people said Ronnie Lott or Polamalu was up there, but Ed Reed to me was always. I mean, the way not only he hit, but he'd take the ball away. And I feel like Brisker can do that too. The clips that I've seen of him, he shut down the Wisconsin game when they were trying to come back there at the end. He made an interception at the goal line. and then talking about leadership, I mean, he went to JUCO route, he transferred into Penn State and became a leader there on their defense in one of the best teams in the country. I think they were ranked like number 4 at some point in the season. So it's not like this dude is just coming in from, some podunk college where he just overachieved. He worked his way up and proved to everybody that he belonged. And I love hearing that from him, the determination, the just, I don't know, the raw ability of him. I love everything I'm seeing from Brisker, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree, Steve. As soon as you mentioned Ronnie Lott, I was like, yes. I mean, Ronnie Lott's one of my all-time favourite players. I mean, the 80s 49ers team are like my second favourite team with the Bears. And I actually managed to see him play. He actually played at Wembley when they did a pre-season game against the Dolphins in, I think it was about 1988. And, as soon as I said Ronnie Lott, I was going, yes. This is mine, because Ronnie Lott played. Did Ronnie Lott play when he had to have his finger amputated or something, and he carried on playing or something ridiculous like that? So as soon as you started mentioning them names, I was buzzing here. See, I thought we got a guy now who wants to hit somebody instead of Eddie Jackson. He's not a tackling he's not a tackling guy, but hopefully this guy might get Eddie to realise that you do have to tackle on defence, and it's all about getting interceptions. You have to man up a little bit. So hopefully, like Jordan said before earlier about having competition, hopefully that'll stir something in Eddie Jackson, and he gets his arse into gear. To put it bluntly.
Yeah. I mean,
go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I already talked.
Yeah, I think that the situation there is so interesting. Is I don't mean to harp on just the background of him, but I think it's good to paint a picture of who he is. Jaquan Brisker was a player that, and we can go deeper onto it now or a different time, but the reason he went the JUCO route was not because he was like some late bloomer or anything of that nature. He lost his brother, his older brother, and his brother was shot and killed, and unfortunately that led to, I believe, his junior and senior year in high school, his grades just tanked because he was obviously in a very bad emotional state, losing his brother. And so he had to go the JUCO route because his grades took a dump, and went to Lackawanna College in Pittsburgh. And I have a buddy in Pittsburgh who played out there at the JUCO level and talked about that Brisker was a raving story. That was a huge success. People raved about his skill at Lackawanna. And then to see that a guy like him, and Penn State is a program I really respect, and to see him transfer into Penn State and become an immediate player for them, both in his junior and senior year, I think it's big time. And he's a player that probably could have been playing at Penn State his entire career if not for the grades. But to see him even come in and then still be a difference maker, still be a leader. I've talked about this time and time again, but he and Tariq Castro-Fields were the only two players holding that back end up. And that's not a shot at – I love Tracy Porter Jr., and I think he's one of my favorite corners for next year. But he literally came back to school because he needs to improve his game. And so Brisker's a leader. You hear him in the interview talking about how he wants to lead and how he wants to play and let his play lead by example. And he talks about – I get as hyped as you, AC, and you, Chris, when you hear Ed Reed and Troy Polamalu, and I don't want to take anything away from him, but also like anybody can say that. Like, yeah, you mean you like the best safeties? You mean you want to play like the best?
That's true.
It's also like hearing what he says, which is they asked him like, where would you prefer to be? And he said, well, honestly, I like to be around the ball. So if I had it my way, I'd be right up on the line. And then I'm matching that with I've literally seen clips of him blowing up a pulling guard, setting the edge, fitting the run. Yeah. Putting his shoulder, a bum shoulder, I might add. He played on a bad shoulder all last year. Putting his shoulder into a pulling guard to disrupt the run. And then he turns around and they, for some reason, again, I told you about that secondary. They didn't tackle the running back. And he's going back and chasing the guy down and tackling him. That is the player that you're getting. And then on top of that, he's a former cornerback. He knows how to cover. Like people, and this is not just me. You can go view the scouting reports. And this is why I said you open up a can of worms. I love Jaquan Brisker. He's a guy that is one of the most complete safeties in the draft. Now, that doesn't mean I had him as safety one, but he's a guy that can truly play free safety if you wanted to. He was seen as a guy that, yeah, absolutely, he'd be better maybe as a strong, moving him down in the box because he has a desire to hit. But he has the true coverage skills and range to be a free safety, to play center fielder if you need it. Now, I don't think that's what he's going to play here, but that shows you that he's versatile enough to play the slot. I mean, we want to talk about a position that Alan Williams was discussing. He had said the nickel position is the hardest position to play because you have to have the mentality of a Mike linebacker. You have to be able to fit the run, and you also have to be able to cover. Yeah. Again, you have Tavon Young to play those smaller slot guys. But Brisker proves, in addition to Dane Cruikshank, as a guy that can come down into the box, fit the run, have the mentality of a Mike linebacker, but also as a former cornerback, be able to cover from the slot if he needed to line up against a power slot or a tight end that was lined up in the slot. I just think Brisker is it's easy to just say, oh, he's the 48th pick and he's fine and he'll be an okay safety, but you're not going to find a bigger support of one, Jaquan Brisker, but also two, the safety position and how valuable it is to modern defense and what he can truly provide and unlock for other players. And everything that you heard there from, like, he talks about playing with his feet under him, driving through people, hitting, being a leader, playing close to the ball, picking up his playbook. It's everything you want to hear in a guy that – I love Kyler Gordon, nothing against him, but he's got the benefit of having the boundary to help him. Jaquan Brisker is playing in the middle of the field as the last line of defense along with Eddie Jackson and has to basically be the traffic controller to make sure that everybody's lined up. And as I said earlier, coverage sets the blitz package. So everything starts with that back end. And now you have Brisker, a guy that I don't want to say Eddie Jackson's not a leader, but let me just put it this way. We absolutely know that Jaquan Brisker is a leader based on how he was at Penn State and what he's talking about now. And if Eddie Jackson's a leader, that's wonderful. Now we have two of those guys that are traffic controlling. But oftentimes last year it was Eddie Jackson trying to do it all, and now you have a true Robin to play next to him. It's an awesome scenario.
Yeah, and I think you had shared the video. It looked like it was against Illinois of Brisker blowing up a run play where he just throws I believe it was a pulling guard. He just throws him off and makes the tackle, and it's great to see. I love seeing that out of my safeties, getting in there and making plays not only in the passing game but in the running game.
Well, and that's a good question. Like, and I watch a ton of football. I mean, you probably can tell that by now. But when I actually think about around the league, and I'm sure I'm missing a few. When I think about around the league, like, who are the safeties that are really putting in the dirty work? They're getting their hands dirty in the traffic, in the trenches, setting the run fit, coming up and laying the wood on people. You're hard-pressed to find those guys. Like Harrison Smith will do it. I mean, he's a little older now, so I don't see him do it as much. As I try to think around the league, like Chuck Clark, I guess, the Lions signed a player recently, and his name's escaping me at the moment, but he's a safety from the Ravens.
I'm sure Don will let us know.
Yeah, Don Burr's here. He can let us know. But former Raven safety, Chuck Clark's on my mind. That's the only reason I can't think of him. But, he's a player that is very similar. The whole point is to say in a league right now that is very much finesse and they don't want you taking off and hitting people as hard as you can. A lot of that area of the safety and defensive position is long gone. And one of my favorite things about Brisker is that is still, he said it himself, I'm an old school safety. I'm looking to take your block off. Right. And that is something that is missing in this game throughout many teams. And like I said, I'm struggling to find a few names. And if he's that, man, I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those guys, they get moved down to like a tweener linebacker role, like an Isaiah Simmons in Arizona, or almost like a Byron Jones. I feel like plays like that in Arizona.
Buchanan.
Yeah,
guys like that. So, Mark Barron.
So he's kind of a chess piece you can move around. But there was a report that came out about one of our scouts who mentioned Jaquan Brisker with a PhD, and he had called it, what did it stand for? It wasn't glowing.
Poor, hungry, and desperate.
Yeah. So that's you definitely got to question that. I mean, I believe his point was showing that he had the tenacity to make it through all these things, but the way he said it obviously sounded racist. to be completely
Yeah, I mean,
honest.
you're spot on there, and that's a big issue. Is that and that Scout is, I believe his last name is Prescott, is no longer with the team, and it's
Right.
unfortunate. I mean, everybody that I've heard, whether it be who's Courtney Cronin's talked to, or I think even Greg Gabriel talked about it. Maybe listen to a lot of media on it, but it was absolutely meant with good intention. That this guy's hungry, he's eager to prove himself, he's desperate to succeed.
Right.
Doesn't come from the most he doesn't sleep in satin sheets as a young kid. He grew up in hard times and found a way to persevere. And maybe that's the easier way and best way to talk about it. But unfortunately, it came out, and this is why words are so important, is
Right.
it came out in a negative connotation, a negative way that ultimately cost this guy his job. And,
Yeah.
and I won't go on too much of a soapbox here. I don't even know if we have the clip, but
I do have the clip. That's why I was setting it up.
Okay, well, I'll be quick so you can get to it. I was very disappointed. I understand that in media you have to ask the tough questions, but I was very disappointed in media for feeling the need to ask this question to Brisker and hammer it home. Like, it's already a sensitive subject. It's tough, and I don't know. It didn't strike me right to sit here, and I get it. You have to ask the questions, but hey, Brisker, what do you think about? Are you poor? Are you hungry? Are you desperate?
Right.
Like, how did that make you feel? Like, it's
Yeah.
just it didn't sit right with me. But I'll let you play the clip.
I mean, before I pop into it,
Excuse me.
it's definitely the media's job to ask the tough questions, and maybe they were somewhat trying to see his reaction to the question and see if he overreacts, gets upset, or pissed off, for lack of a better words. And I think he answered the question perfectly. And I've got the clip right here. I'll go ahead and play it.
A lot has been made over the last week about a Bears scout describing you as poor, hungry, and desperate. What was your reaction when you heard that, and then also the reaction to all of this discussion over the last week?
To be honest, I really didn't pay attention to any of it. I probably heard about it a little later. I was still enjoying my time with my family and things like that. But the Bears organization, did a great job, communicating with me and things like that. So, I really don't let things like that get to me, because I already been through a whole lot. So, people say a lot of things, but that's not really, who I am. You can't judge a book by its cover. I'm actually, a great person, a great football player, and I also graduated from college, at Penn State. So, I overcame a lot of things, but I don't let little things like that get to me.
So were you offended by that description?
No, sir. It really just brushed it off my shoulders, and really I heard about it super late, but I'm good. I'm fine.
So I mean, they asked him about it. Maybe they were out of line to ask him about it, but I mean, the doubling down may have been out of line there. He answered the question and then they kind of asked it again. Were you offended by it? Like, there was no need for that. But I love the way he went into it and talked about, look, I'm a freaking college graduate. I don't know his family history, but like my wife, she just got her bachelor's degree. She was the first one in her family history to have a bachelor's degree. So that's a huge accomplishment for anybody, regardless of your background. So the way he took the high road and was just like, it didn't bother me at all. I've overcame a lot. I got my bachelor's degree from a great college, and I'm playing in the NFL. It did not bother me. I know maybe they were out of line to ask the question, like you said, Jordan, but I feel like he handled it perfectly, like a professional.
Yeah. I mean, I think sometimes with journalists, they try to make a story when into story. Especially like a journalist like Mike Flores, he always seems to want to make a story what ain't really there just to get a reaction, or and I think that's what journalists were doing. But a guy like him, like Brisker, should be celebrated for for coming from working hard and coming from such a rough background and having it hard and getting to like the pinnacle of being in the NFL. It's that's something what the Bears should really celebrate of him. Really, I find them sort of stories really uplifting, and especially in the world today where everything's quite depressing. It's good to see somebody get through all them really hard times and and improve themselves and actually get to where they want to go in life. And I find him an impressive young man.
I think you cut out there at the end, Chris. You just said he was an impressive young man. Is that what you were saying?
I did do so. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed with him.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I agree with you, AC Chris. I think he answered the question well, and I see a few people in the chat saying like it wasn't racist and the scout meant well by it. Just so that we're clear, I agree. I think it was meant with the right intention. That's what I said. I just think that the word usage was poor by Prescott the scout, and nowhere. I don't know if I'm ready to say it's racist. I mean, the reality is it's connotative to any race, any person.
Right. I grew up poor and in the housing projects as well, so I guess I shouldn't have just jumped straight to it being racist. But
yeah, it's just the idea that like, and look, we're in a racial hotbed of a time where there's a lot of concerns about racial issues in America, and again, it doesn't really matter the color of the man's skin. It's anybody being called poor, desperate, hungry. It's meant in an endearing way, but the way it comes out, those are not terms that are seen positive. We literally, hunger is seen as a world crisis that we're trying to fix hunger. So how would we be using that word to describe, it's positive? I'm glad he's hungry. Poor. Oh, we don't want people poor. We want them successful. Oh, but that's a good thing that he's poor. Oh, he's desperate. Well, no, I don't want him to be full of despair and desperate and seeking, fulfillment. I want him to be happy and taken care of. Oh, no, but it's positive that he's desperate. So again, it's just the words, but I really appreciate the way that he answered it. Again, I didn't think it was called for to even bring it up or to double down and go, well, did it offend you? I mean, and he handled it like a pro, which is what we've been saying. Every single guy seems mature. They seem like professionals. They've been here before. These moments aren't scaring them. And he's talking about, I have such respect for Penn State as a program and that school. And he graduated from them. And I think, and I don't mean to get on my soapbox here. I'll end it quickly, but I think my issue is I just would prefer media to maybe do just a hint, just a tiny bit of research on the players and understand what's about them. Like, I mean, I'll give you an example. And yes, I'm a super fan. I get it. I'm deep into it. But Penn State had a video on Jaquan Brisker from Penn State football's YouTube account. I highly encourage everybody to check it out. I had it on Twitter a few days ago. I'll try to retweet it. So if you follow me on Twitter, you can find it there. But it's on YouTube. It's on Penn State football's page. I didn't even go looking for it. It just pops up because obviously YouTube's great. The algorithm understands that I like Chicago Bears, and Jaquan Brisker is a recent Chicago Bear. But it's like a 7 or 8 minute video. And immediately I learned many things, but 2 things I learned is I learned that he lost his brother, which I had heard about, but I know the brother's name. The brother's name was Tale. And I understand that at times when Brisker's successful in the game, he throws up an L. And it's not like an L to lose or anything. It's L for Tale. And that's something I learned in just an 8 minute video. But the issue is that if I can learn it and you're a media member, sure, I guess we can stir up controversy and ask about the PhD comment. Or maybe you can ask him, would you mind, I know it's sensitive, but would you mind maybe talking about your brother and what it means playing for him and why you throw up the L? And I've noticed you throw up the L for Tale. And, I'd love to pay some respect in his name and tell him how much he means to you every time you play and every time you accomplish something.
Well, they did that with Jatire Carter yesterday, so it was definitely. But they do ask some dumb questions. Like I think they asked Braxton Jones if he's ever been in a fight. Like what the hell kind of question is that?
It's funny you say that because as much as I said that they're ready and prepared for anything, and he did a fine job, but even he was like, you could tell he was uncomfortable. And eventually the reporter had to go, oh, I was just wondering. It was just a question.
This is a stupid-ass question.
What? Yeah, and I get it. Nobody's perfect, but this is one where you're certainly baiting and trying to dig and find some juicy stuff about, when he called me a PhD, I was pissed and blah, blah, but it's like, why don't you ask about something more meaningful, like his brother who he lost, who he plays for, he throws up a symbol for every time he's successful. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's be better.
I think
speaking of something more meaningful, our guy KB has shown up. He is in the background. He had to work today. Like I said at the start, I sent him the link. I said, hop in when you can, brother. It's no big deal. So I'll bring in my boy KB right here before we move on a little bit. What's going on,
brother? What's going on, boys?
Louder than the lazy boy.
Hey, man. You know what I'm saying? Your boys been out here. We've been out here, changing out flags for some of the guys that passed away that were firefighters. So we had to do that this morning and do training on a Sunday because why not? Why not? But now you boys back, man. We in the building. We in the building.
Yeah.
That's kind of a tough
day. Good to see you, KB.
Good to see you too, Chris, man. That's my boy C. But What we got going on, man? I hear y'all talking about these interviews with these players, man. Some of these media members trying to bait them into dumbass questions.
Yep. That's I mean, well, we're going over all the press conferences and interviews and stuff that have came out over the past week, and we've made it to our second pick. That's how far we've made it in the hour we've been in the hour that we've been on the air.
What day?
And we got to the PhD comment. Some people in the chat aren't happy that we picked it up, but that's okay. It's the AC show, not the chat room show.
Facts.
And but I'm gonna go ahead and play Eberflus, what he had to say about Brisker, and then KB, if you want to hop in and you can cover Gordon and Brisker to catch up a little bit if you want to, and then we'll move on after that. Does that sound good?
Sounds good, man.
Yeah, so the hitting is there. So, you know, the old term that a lot of my mentors used to use is quickness, instincts, and striking ability. And that's what he has. And those things still are true today as they were, you know, years ago. So he has those attributes, and we're excited where he is. What a positive energy guy, too. That's really a thing, and you can really feel the light coming out of him.
Well, he covered it a lot better than our scout did. I'll just say that the way he talked about his instincts and I've said, I didn't look at a whole lot of Jaquan Brisker pre-draft because you guys knew my opinion on the safety position, but everything I've seen since we drafted the guy, I love everything I've seen. The way he can hit, the way he can play the ball, the way he's just a badass.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, man, what you hear a lot is Adrian Amos 2.0, and what they're saying is, you know, he's a faster, more cerebral version of him. I mean, just watching some of the game film, the kid just always seems to be in the right place at the right time. And like I said, man, you watch plays, people are holding people up, and he's coming and laying the wood. So I mean, you got to be excited that type of mentality, man. And Kyler Gordon, that. Just you know, I think the kid might be special, man. Just hearing him talk, the love for the game, hearing him talk about. I didn't know Washington actually studied the peanut punch, like that shit was shocking to me. You know what I'm saying? He's like, yeah, we've been doing this for years, you know. So I'm always looking to get the ball. So just seeing the video of him jumping up in the air, and it's just like, bro, your hops are amazing. Everything about that kid, he just has his head on right. But, you know, media asks him 50 million questions about whether or not he's going to do ballet on the field.
Yeah.
You know, nobody's going to ask football questions, you know what I'm saying, at a football presser. But, you know, what's your favorite style of dance, you know?
Yeah.
But, hey, like I said, it's not really too much to really speak on those two because, to me, they're both excellent personalities. Poles did the right thing, bringing in these high character type guys that Pace always talked about. So you see the high character in those two guys. And then I heard Jordan was talking about Brisker's brother that he lost. Like, Brad, to me, questions like that's what you ask. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You ask things like, okay, this is what we believe, and this is what people told us. This is why you throw it up. Don't ask the PhD question, man. He's not gonna get out there and show his ass. If you piss me off, I'm not gonna come out on national fucking television and show that I'm pissed off about it, because then that just makes me look like the angry black man. I'm sorry, and nobody's trying to do that. And so I'm glad he kept his composure and was just like, yeah, man, I ain't even really pay attention to it. That's what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, I loved his answer. You know, he talked about
instead
of talking about that, he was like, "Look, I graduated college." You know what I'm saying? Like,
right?
How many people can say that? I got a bachelor's degree.
Facts.
I'm out here busting my ass to make this football team. Yeah, I love our first two picks. Like I had said going into the draft, it was depending on. I mean, we played the board the way it fell to us. There was like a ton of offensive line went in the first round, and wide receivers, they went on a big run too. So Poles, instead of reaching into, a second tier as he called it, or as he had it on his board, a second tier of wide receivers, he's going to reach into the first tier of defensive back. And I think he did the smart move. But he did not leave the draft without a wide receiver. He grabbed Velus Jones, who is a player that some people are saying won't even start, but I tend to disagree. I think you can plug this guy in anywhere on your offense, and he's a playmaker. He just get the ball in his hands and he makes plays. You go back and look at the tape. If you're not just some meatball fan who has never watched Tennessee, go back and look at the tape. Look at what he does with the ball in his hands, and I don't understand how you can be upset with this draft pick.
Yeah, I just want to say real quick, ain't special teams a part of football? No, I'm pretty sure that's how that works, right? I mean, it's not like the kid's a kicker.
Yeah.
Like he's a legit return man. He's going to be. I mean, if they decide, hey, you know, we got a really big role for you on offense, but he's probably going to be slotted in as the return man day one. Now, that's just my feeling.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because like I love this conversation because not that you're trying to do it right, but it's funny because like people will take that and run with it that he's so we drafted a return guy only at 71. It's like no. I mean, even if that's only his role to start, but I'll give somewhat of a revelatory stance, and I don't know how people feel about this, but you know, one of the things that was a concern last year was that Justin Fields held on to the ball a long time, and the offensive line wasn't good enough, and he'd get sacked if he had to wait for routes to develop. And you know, just maybe, I know this is kind of a crazy thought, but maybe Velus was a guy that was designed to just say, hey, Justin, you're going to hike the ball, and then you're going to turn to Velus and throw him the ball so that he has it in space on a screen, and we're going to see what type of magic he can make, because if we ask you to take a full 5 or 7 step drop, you may get put on your butt because the offensive line is still a work in progress. So we could have got you a traditional X receiver like Jalen Tolbert, who you're waiting to kind of get open and run traditional routes. But we figured we'd get you this jitterbug, this electric, you know, scat guy that, hey, we're just going to throw the ball to him and see what happens. Like, there's a role there. And I know that's hard for fans to understand, but sure, I get he doesn't fit the traditional mold of he doesn't look like an X receiver, or his route running, he's not sinking his hips and changing his tempo on routes. But I've said it before, I've said it again, like A.J. Brown wasn't the most refined player when he got to Tennessee. And Treylon Burks is not the most refined player when he's in Tennessee now. Like, you have players that, especially when you're picking at 71, they're not perfect. Oftentimes they're not perfect in the top 5. But especially when you're taking them at 71, you have to mold and develop and grow this player and form a role for him. And if the role is you're returning on some kicks and then you're coming in and making 7 to 10 plays a game on screens or jet sweeps or option plays, maybe an occasional go ball, that's fine to start.
I was gonna say he's gonna be the slot receiver when he comes in. I've seen him throwing Pringle out, you know what I'm saying, playing them out wide when you bring Velus in. The kid's electric, and what people fail to realize is the kid was number 1 in the freaking nation for separating on routes.
Yak. Yeah, crazy yak.
I mean, it's like Jordan saying, man, you're gonna get this kid open in space. He's going to make magic happen with the ball. It's all about guessing system.
I don't know if I have it in here or not, but I think he even talked about his goal is to make the first man miss. Like, he never wants to go down at first contact, and his yak average shows that. But the first clip I'm going to play here, KB talked about him being a return specialist, especially in a city like Chicago where we had the greatest return man of all time who deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, Devin Hester. First Bears jersey I ever owned was Devin Hester. I love Devin. And we got a couple of guys here that talk about Devin Hester, so I'm going to play that first.
Man, when I think of Devin Hester, I think of greatness, fearless. It just seemed like he slowed everything down, from like his cuts, his decision making. Like, we knew, even on Madden back in the days, like he was like a 99 overall speed, I'm pretty sure. And so like his craft, it's just so much, you know, that goes with his game and stuff. And, you know, I was watching him ever since, you know, I was young. Was a huge impact on my return game as a kid. But when his name comes up, you know, I think of greatness.
I watched a lot of Devin Hester. Yeah, I watched a lot, so it's nice. I was joking with the equipment guys. I'm like, Lamar Jackson, number 23. I'm like, I hope he let me buy it from him. It would be nice to put that number on. It put a little pressure on myself, you know, but it's the kind of pressure you want. You know, I just hope I can be half of what he was, you know.
Bears brought in another return man with Velus Jones. You just said you like putting that pressure on yourself. Are you looking forward to a little friendly competition?
Oh yeah, I love it. It's nice, and we'll be able to push each other. I watched some of his tape too, and he's really good. And so, I think it's fine. I've never been scared of competition, so it's good.
I like how Aldo threw the little Madden clips in there.
I was going to say the Madden clips was the touch, wasn't
it? took me back, man. Yeah.
But people forget Devin Hester was the only player in Madden history to have the 100 speed.
I was going to say he was the only one with 100 speed.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I was going to say you had him and Albert Hainsworth was the only guy in Madden that had 100 strength for whatever reason.
He had 100 strength, but he had a 0 in
zero stamina. Zero stamina, zero toughness. But yeah, man, you just see it, man. A lot of these new kids that they're bringing in, man. You see that type of camaraderie with the other players. Yeah, I watched tape on him. Yeah, he's really good. Yeah, we're gonna push each other. I'm here for it. You know what I'm saying? They want the competition.
Yeah. Hell
I was gonna say, to me, that's big. To me, that's something I ain't really heard from a lot of the other draft classes that we've had in previous years. People just talking about how excited they are to compete with each other. Mm-hmm. I was gonna say, and I think that might have actually extended onto the O-line for wherever we get there. You hearing the news about those 4.2s just being fucking monsters in practice. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I'm excited about the draft class, man. I like I said, I find it hard, very hard to sit there and say you give a class anything lower than a B when you get 2 surefire starters and you're gonna have a third in Velus Jones. Yeah, they're coming in day one. They're gonna start, man. I just find it hard to be mad at that. So that's just my feeling on it, man. It's a lot of people that are just down because, oh my God, Darnell Mooney's the best receiver we have. Oh no, dude had over 1,000 yards, man. It's a lot of people that didn't even hit 1,000 yards. A lot of people's favorite receivers didn't hit 1,000 yards. So
that's true.
Yeah. I mean, I think the beautiful thing there is, we were talking about Velus and, what if he's just a return man to start? I mean, the reality is, and this is what's so beautiful about a lot of the players they're drafting, and Coach Hightower, the special teams coordinator, talked about how he sees anybody that puts on a helmet should be able to return the ball on punt return and kick return. And it's not even just Ebner and Jones, but they want to also see Herbert and forgetting the other name he was mentioning as a return option, but Daz Newsome. And so it's a scenario where ultimately you're looking at it. And sure, I know that we talk about if Velus is a really slow track, maybe he starts out on return, but I mean, don't get it confused. If Coach Eberflus has talked about this as well, that Luke Getsy has a very big plan for Velus. And so you can't, and as much as we'd love Velus to be Superman and he's a full-time gunner and a full-time returner and he's a full-time receiver, if he has a truly big plan for him on offense, which, everything that the staff has said, when they say something, it usually is true. We're seeing that. It's not just all smoke so far. If they do have a plan for Velus, that's where a guy like Ebner is extremely valuable. And those two kind of play off of each other. Like you may have Ebner come in for a halfback screen or to play kind of the slot receiver. Ebner talked about how he prefers as a wide receiver in high school before he transitioned to running back at Baylor. His favorite part of his game is catching the ball and running routes. So you may have Velus and Ebner swapping in and out where one series Velus is the returner and Ebner's getting a screenplay that series. And Velus catches a breather or a blow and then comes back in and Ebner comes out, Velus comes in and catches a tunnel screen or goes for a go route. And so you're seeing the ability to move chess pieces around where Ebner can play a role in offense, Velus Jones can play a role in offense, Khalil Herbert comes in, Daz Newsome, and they are also looking for the connective tissue. Ryan, you said it so well, like special teams matters, right? And it's like it does. It's the connective tissue of the team and it's how you make the roster and everybody has a role to play. And so you need players at all levels that you're a gunner, you're fielding punts, you're catching kicks, you're blocking on kickoff return. And you can see that they've picked up so many of these guys, whether it be a Daz Newsome, Khalil Herbert, Velus Jones, or Treston Ebner.
Yeah. I think they had some, like I said earlier, they had some undrafted free agent guys they brought in that have return ability in their background as well. So it's going to be a competition for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I personally think Velus just illustrates the modern NFL. You know, get a fast player, get him into space, get the ball to him, and see what he can do after the catch.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we saw. I was a little surprised, even as a Kentucky fan, when I saw Wan'Dale Robinson go off the board. That's exactly what he does. They get him into space, and they do what they do with him. That's the plan. And that's the modern, just like you said, Chris, modern NFL. The game is always evolving. Whether it's, big hitters, so we'll get little, faster guys to try and go around them, and just, I don't know. It's always evolving is my point. But I got some more clips over here. I'm gonna let Coach talk about Velus, and then we'll go into some more, because there's a ton of Velus clips over here. I think Aldo knows this is a pretty big point with our fan base. Some people are upset, some people are happy, some people were upset and are now happy. I wouldn't say I was upset, but I was a little surprised, to be honest.
Me too.
And I'm no draft expert, but I did not have. I knew Velus was a playmaker because I saw it against my Kentucky Wildcats, but I don't know. I just didn't have him as high on my board. But my board is not the same as their board. So we'll let Flus talk about him, and then get into some more of these clips with Velus.
Exactly. Velus did a great job. He was, like, as we expected, high energy. Caught the ball very, very well today. We're excited to have him out there. He played inside, outside. He was all over the place, in terms of that. So, and I think he functioned pretty good. So, excited to see that athlete on the field for sure. Yeah, I was talking to Luke the other day about his special attributes that he has. And, he's got a big plan for him. He's got a big, he's going to look at his skill set, and then, we'll expand that role. Let's start out at receiver, and then let's see what he can do. Moving him around to different spots and getting him the ball, because he is an explosive athlete.
Sound like Chris Watts there, talking about moving him around, getting him the ball in space. However you want to get the ball in his hands, he's a playmaker, man.
Well, we did have a bit of a chat beforehand. You know what I mean? I did give him a few little tips.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, that just goes to show you, man. It just goes to show you how people see people, man. We can look at a player like a Darnell Mooney and just think, oh yeah, this kid's gonna be somebody who probably is bottom of the roster, just filling out for depth. But these coaches, man, they see these key traits in players, and they can be Joe from West Bumblefuck that comes in and is the next great wide receiver just off the traits that you see. Like I said, and it's like everybody on this panel, bro, nobody was probably looking at that pick and said, oh my God, Velus Jones is going to be the world beater that the Bears need. But over time, just seeing the kid talk and actually watching film and film breakdown on him, you start to have him grow on you, because you see what he could be. And if he's that type of chess piece, then yeah, maybe you get that Debo-esque type player that can be moved all around the field. I'm not gonna say he's Debo Samuel, because, like I said, I'm not gonna compare him like that. Saying just placing him in different spots, just getting the ball in the kid's hands. Like I said, he might not have been the first pick of everybody, but like I said, Justin Fields and Getsy and Eberflus all sat down and was like, hey, who wide receivers you like?
Right.
I like that guy.
Mm-hmm.
So you got him.
He's already been FaceTiming Justin Fields, and they've talked about linking up, I guess, when Justin gets into town and stuff. So they're already trying to build a chemistry between the two of them, which is,
Hey, man, that's solid. He gets out there with him and Darnell Mooney, man. That'd be love.
Yeah. And, I mean, Justin was working in the offseason with Cole Kmet, too. I think it's going to be a big prove-it year for Cole Kmet as well. I mean, put up or shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, something I'd say, and I don't want to conflate this. I'm not calling Velus Jones, Garrett Wilson, or Chris Olave. I want to repeat, I'm not doing that. But, and somebody had mentioned in the chat that, like, Jordan was really upset when the pick was made. I think that's a little bit of a strong word, but yes, when the pick was made, I was very much bewildered. I was like, I don't know why you would have reached for this guy that I had a 5th round grade on. Now, I could admit, looking back, I think I even maybe said at the time, like, he wasn't going to be there in the fifth, only because speed is such a valuable commodity in the league. And even if
these wide receivers were going, man, and
yeah,
you can't no matter what your grade is, if you see runs on players on positions, you got to grab your guy sometimes.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, as much as I don't like, I want him to be consistent, him being polls consistent in the process of taking the best player available and don't reach. I'm also a firm believer that when you found your guy, if you're picking at, let's say, pick 8, and he's really a pick 31 guy, are you really going to pass up on the guy? Like, if that's your guy and you're not going to have an opportunity to pick him until pick 40, and you're at pick 8, even if he's the 31st best player, like, there's no way, and you can't find a trade partner, you take him at 8. You don't just go, well, he's my guy, but, like, I'm not going to reach 20-some spots because I'm not going to be able to get him in the second round. Like, you take him. And this is the thing, and going back to the Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave thing is, when I mentioned that I was a little confused at the pick, I've had to kind of sit back and reflect and understand that, to me, and this is a lot of Bears fans, for whatever reason, we assume that the Bears need an X receiver, a big physical player on the line that lines up on the backside of plays, that wins one-on-one, who can out-muscle DBs for routes and win at the catch point. I still think that that's something the Bears are missing, and I really wish that they had gotten that. But at a certain point, fans have to realize that just because you and I and everybody thinks that Justin needs an X wide receiver who wins at the catch point, that doesn't mean that that's what the Bears think that he needs. And the reason I bring up Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave is I'm not calling Velus Jones that, but when you consider what Justin Fields won with at Ohio State, he didn't have an X receiver. Like, Chris Olave is a Z. He's not a big physical guy, and Garrett Wilson's the same way. Not a lot of yak coming from these guys. They're not these big physical forces. And when it got tough and he really needed to, I need a guy that's going to win at the catch point, he would dump it to Jeremy Ruckert consistently, his big tight end that he felt safe with. And I think you're seeing some of that being built again, which is, as I said, well, where's the X receiver? You could have picked up a Jalen Tolbert. They're sitting there and going, no, like, we've got the explosive playmaker in Darnell Mooney. He's kind of the Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, one of the two. And then we've got this explosive jitterbug athlete. I kind of consider Darnell Mooney to be more of the Chris Olave type build. And now we've got this jitterbug who's kind of fast and electric, and he's got speed, and he breaks tackles, and he makes magic happen with the ball in his hands. And Velus Jones, that's kind of the Garrett Wilson role. And then when things get tough and Justin Fields feels like he has to get a catch, and we have to see this from Cole Kmet, I'm not giving him a pass. But the big comp I had for Jeremy Ruckert is, and go look at the physical measurements, Jeremy Ruckert and Cole Kmet are eerily similar in a lot of ways. And if he and Cole Kmet build that chemistry the way that they've been working in Atlanta and things like that, I expect to see Justin Fields treat Cole Kmet as his safety blanket. That when I need somebody to win at the catch point, I need them to be being out physical and muscling out the DB and the linebacker. I'm going to put it into your chest and you secure the catch. And you start seeing that Ohio State offense build where there's not some like dominant Calvin Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald, DK Metcalf presence. It's role players who are fast and explosive and good route runners. And then you have this big body that's the safety blanket for Justin Fields.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, you look at the 49ers offense, who we're supposed to be kind of emulating. I mean, they don't have that big wide receiver that's, you know what I'm saying, really that guy. I mean, you look at Debo. Debo's not the physically imposing 6'5" guy.
Yeah, people are mentioning St. Brown, and I get that. I'm not naive. I understand equanimity of St. Brown's on the roster, and with all due respect to him, like, he's a guy that if I'm going to hold the Cole Kmet's feet to the fire and say that he needs to show that he can catch in traffic and be a safety blanket for Justin, you can tell me that that's your X receiver, but I don't know if St. Brown has ever even caught more than like 500 yards in a season. So I'm going to hold his feet to the fire too. Like, yes, he exists, but I need to see something from him before I'm just going to say, oh yeah, they got their alpha receiver on the perimeter. You just put St. Brown in there and he's going to win. Like that, I'm not ready to do that.
Yeah, I was going to say, does he exist? Does he?
Well, Rogers wasn't sure he existed. All he saw was 17, but 17 ain't out there no more, brother. So you're going to have to learn something.
Like I said, all I know is, like I said, to me, you look at the 49ers offense and you just have to realize Deebo Samuel's 6 foot. We don't technically need the X. It's good, but it's not needed. You need guys that can separate and get open.
I mean, even in Kansas City, now Tyreek Hill's a freak athlete, but he's what, 5'10", maybe?
5'10".
This is happening all over the league. Devontae Smith was the number one pick for the Eagles last year. He's not a tall guy.
5'10".
Jalen Waddle, same thing. Nelson Aguilar got paid big money. He's not a big X receiver. Like, you go around the league, there are some teams that are playing with power players like Drake London, Mike Williams, I'm sure I could DK Metcalf, but for the most part, there are teams that win with smaller players. AJ Brown's not he's a thick dude, but he's not 6'4".
Yeah, he like 6'1", ain't he? 6'2", maybe.
Really? Yeah, I just every time I see him, he looks huge to me. Maybe I just never looked at how tall AJ Brown.
Yeah, AJ Brown 6'1". Yeah. He's an inch taller than Debo. 2 inches taller than Darnell.
He just built like a brick shit house.
Yeah, he is. It's special, but it's like,
Well, a lot of people are curious.
But do you guys?
Go ahead, Chris.
No,
I would have said, do you guys think that do you think the guys that the Bears are not going to try and sign a big receiver in the free agency? Do you think they're not going to get that one big guy, that one sort of big target, or do you think that's not going to be style of the offense that they want to bring in?
Well, I put out an article this week on mentaldimes.com with some of the free agent fits that are left after the draft. And I plugged Julio Jones into us, and part of it was just because of that. I don't know what Julio's got left in the tank, but I would love to just see that big body that Justin can throw to. And as we've been talking here, I'm not really even sure if it's a fit, but I don't feel like Julio's going to be asking for a ton of money, and we already know Poles ain't going to pay a ton of money. So I feel like it's a fit unless he wants to go ring chasing, which he very well
probably.
So
it was like I still stand on the defense of saying maybe Will Fuller if he wants to come cheap because he can go really fast in one direction. He might be injured half the games.
Yeah,
but he could take the top off of offense. I mean, off of defense. That's where I was sticking to now because there ain't really too many guys left, man. You're looking at all old players or injury prone guys now. So,
yeah, that's true. A lot of people are worried about Velus's age, and he was asked about it, obviously, because it's Chicago media, and he really had a nice spin on it, and I got a clip of it right here. I'm gonna play it.
It is a benefit because I'm coming in with maturity. I'm all about my business. I was young, but now that I'm older, I realize like what's at stake, and this is the best job in the world. And so, like I said before, they're getting a guy that's mature and don't care much about partying, just coming in, and I'm ready to establish a role in this team to help us win games. Definitely, my mind is screwed on right, and so, yeah. They're definitely getting a mature guy that's all about his business. Is going to help this team in any way possible.
I love it.
That's my favorite. That's probably my favorite response out of all the interviews, by the way. Like, there's been a lot of good interviews, but to me, Velus, like, just you want to talk about responding to the question the right way.
Yeah.
Everybody, like, I don't know. I care about the age too. Ryan Poles did as well. Like he said, would I like him to be 19? Sure, but if that's really your biggest issue with him, that you're taking a problem with, it kind of tells you that maybe you should dig a little deeper than the age. The age is important. I'm not saying it's not, but that should never be the ultimate determinant on whether you pick a guy. And how can you not love the response that, hey, I'm just really about my business, and I understand the opportunity that I've been given. This is the best job in the world. I'm not about partying. They're getting a guy that's mature and just wants to handle his business. And a part that I don't think was touched on in that clip, maybe I didn't hear it all, but he talks about one point, just right now what I'm focused on is finding my role where I can make an impact on this.
Mm-hmm.
And that is that whole, like, just about my business. Just about my business. Like, I love it.
I was going to say, to me, man, when you listen to all of these interviews from all of these different players, you get certain people saying, "Oh, this kid comes off as a little cocky. We kind of like this." We get, "Oh, this kid is real light. He seems like he wants to play the game." But with his interview, it seemed like it was just business. You got the sense of this kid was coming in. I'm gonna answer everything, and I'm gonna give you a straight answer, no bullshit, and people are going to either accept it or not accept it. To me, his interview, like I said, it just came off as being mature, like he's been in this situation for years. So I loved his press conference more than a lot of than everybody's, man. I just like that he was so direct with everybody. He had no problem answering anything, and it just seemed like he had every answer. So
he
definitely enjoyed his.
He definitely didn't shy away from any questions. He answered everything directly, and maybe that shows his maturity. Jay Sanders is still not happy with it. I would love to have Jay Sanders. I've never seen this man, but he has been on a tirade since we had our damn draft. He is pissed. I think he thinks we're going to finish like four wins or something. I mean, he's more mature. He's old. King T, BS. Yeah. You know, and then you got Chubbs who's talking about Devontae Adams. He just got big paid. He's 30. Man, this dude's 25. I mean, y'all act like he's 74 or something.
And that's the thing, AC, I'll be real quick, Chris. It's just like if the guy produces, I don't even want to put 1,000 yards, but like if he produces good stats, if you feel like he's playing a big role, he's scoring touchdowns, he's catching the deep balls from Justin Fields, I promise you're not going to care if he's 38 or 52. It's just, is he playing good football and is he producing for the team that I care about? The age will disappear. You won't care how old he is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The way I look
said in here, go ahead.
Sorry, AC. I always keep jumping in, man. I don't know what's going on today with me. Keep interrupting you all the time. But you got to think as well about the sort of typical NFL career is about 4 years. So, like, even though he's 25 now, even if he lasts to his, his first major contract, he's still only going to be 29, 30. So, to me, it wasn't really an issue from the start for me at all.
Yeah, I mean that you took the words out of my mouth. You cut me off, but you said exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah,
he gets this 4-year contract. He's 29. Then you can hit him with another 4-year contract if he produces, and then he's 33 and he'll be looking to either test free agency, see what he can get out there or whatever he does. But again, like someone said in the chat, Devontae Adams is 30 years old. He just got paid. I think Tyreek Hill's like 29 and he just got paid. So if the players produce, they don't care about the age, So, but he does have some improvements to make. He knows that. I mean, he was a 71st overall pick. If he was a perfect prospect and he was 21 years old and he ran that insane 40 and he, just blew everybody out of the water, he would have been gone in the top 10. The Lions would have traded up to draft him at 12 instead of Jameson Williams. So he knows he's got improvements to make, and I got a clip here where he talks about it, and I'll go ahead and play it.
I would say top of the routes, breaking in and out of routes. That comes with flexibility, things off the field. Be able to drop my hips even more. Just as a working on my route craft overall. I mean, even the best route runners, they got to get better at something.
I love it. Perfect. The biggest concern other than his age was his route running, and he just touched on it right there. Right. Devontae Adams wins with route running. It's a craft that you have to work on constantly.
Like I said, and it just harkens back to what I was saying about his interview. Well, I said his interview, his press conference, however you want to call it. He just comes off as I'm going to be about business. Nobody in this planet can sit here and tell you that this man doesn't understand the weight of the world that is now on his shoulders because he was the only fucking wide receiver drafted by the Bears. And everybody was saying, oh, well, we should have picked Pickens or we should have picked Pierce or, the crowd that was saying we should have been drafting Justin Ross. this kid is the only guy that they took. He was the guy they earmarked. This is the guy that Justin Fields said he would love to play with. So he knows what it's about to be when he gets on this field. So you have to know that man is about to bring them cleats to the field, man. He's going to be all business.
Yeah, like I love just everything about this. Like I'm going to pull like just little quotes from areas that we're not even necessarily including, but like he talked about FaceTiming with Justin Fields, and literally the word he used was like manifesting what this is going to look like, what this is going to be.
Yeah.
He's very self-aware about the areas, and this comes with maturity, like reflection. When you are old enough to reflect and realize, okay, where can I be better? Where can I improve? What areas am I good at? What am I not? Where do I need to focus my efforts on? And these are the things that you're seeing with him, which, I mean, it's a talk I had. We could probably rewind to, a couple weeks ago when we talked about the draft picks, but I had said my issue with him was just the refinement in route running. It's not that he can't run routes. It's just the little technique, like, and I don't mean to get too much into the minutia here, but there's different ways to run routes, and there's different areas of separation. You can separate at the line in your release. You can separate during the actual route running itself, or you can separate at the catch point to secure a catch. And there's different areas of route running. You can tempo the routes. Do you start slow, move fast? How does your footwork look? Are you swiping hands away to get a free release, things like that? And the area that he's specifically talking about is at the top of his routes when you have the cut in a route. If you're running, like, let's say, an in or an out or a post, it's before you make that cut, you traditionally need to sink your hips, drop your weight to get a sharp angle on a cut and slow down that speed. It's like when you're watching a car go down the road, when it has to stop, you'll see the front end drop. And the reason for that is it's leverage. You drop the car, you drop the hips, it allows you to then pivot and then dart out in the direction you're going. And that is something that takes, as he said, flexibility, but time and effort to refine those areas of the game. And Nomad has a great point here, and this is something we haven't even talked about, is Tyke Tolbert, the receiver coach, is an incredibly respected coach. Has coached some of the most successful receivers in the league. Has done great work in a lot of the stops he's been to. And if there's a guy that, and this is not, again, we've talked about, Eberflus says they're all good teachers, but there's a few coaches on this staff that you'd be like, well, nobody really knows what Luke Getsy is going to provide, or Chris Morgan. But if there's like a few names that really are proven, Alan Williams is one of them. He's been all the way back to Tony Dungy back in the day. But Tyke Tolbert is another one. And if there's a coach on this staff that I believe can develop a player, again, maybe Chris Morgan's the best offensive line coach. We just don't know it. Maybe Luke Getsy's the best offensive coordinator. But I wouldn't bet on the offensive lineman because I don't know what Chris Morgan provides as a coach. The one thing that I do feel confident in is that Tyke Tolbert's an awesome wide receiver coach, and that is to the benefit of the receivers like Velus Jones, Daz Newsome, and then also to obviously the benefit of the guy throwing them the ball, Justin Fields.
Yep. And you said it perfectly there. I mean, I don't know how to follow that up.
You can't. That man hit it on the nose, bro. That was it.
Yeah.
I'll try and say a little bit. I'll try and say a little thing. The thing what sometimes I think a lot of fans forget is that these players aren't the finished article. You know what I mean? All right, there might have been top college players, but there's always room for improvement. And this kid could definitely, he's going to get coached, like Jordan said, by a really high respected receiver coach. So this guy is route running is going to improve. Do you know what I mean? So I always like to think that nobody's the finished article. Everybody can keep improving in sport.
Yeah, I mean, our previous wide receiver coach, I don't think was worth a damn. I don't remember anybody getting better under him.
Mike Fury. He was too busy hitting the weights in the weight room.
Yeah, the dude was jacked. Yeah, but he just, I don't know how good he was at his job. But we grabbed Treston Ebner, and we talked a little bit about him earlier out of Baylor. I think they list him as a running back, but he can play running back or wide receiver. And he talked about the ability to run that zone run scheme that we're going to be moving to. I believe they run it at Baylor, which is also why you're going to see us grab a lot of fast players, because they got to be quick to get to that outside or find that hole. But here, I got a clip of him talking about similarities of the offense that he ran in college with what he's doing now.
I see a lot of outside zone, and we've been going over that a lot. So I feel very comfortable running outside zone. That's the offense I ran this year. That's all we ran, and so I'm excited to show like that side of my game too.
You said after you were drafted that you felt like your receiving skills are one of the biggest, attributes you can bring to this team. What makes you so good as a receiver?
Just because that's the position I played my whole life until I got to college. So, that's the thing I'm like most comfortable with is catching the ball and making people miss after I catch it.
You're hearing a trend here.
Yeah.
Hey, I like to catch the ball, and then I'm really good at making people miss.
Yeah.
Like it's a theme going on here. Like, hey, what's Velus Jones good at? Getting the ball in his hands and making people miss. Like I'll shut up here. I want to let Ryan and Chris go. But like the one thing is that a lot of people are saying he's like Tariq Cohen. I don't know if they're the direct comparison. He's much bigger than Tariq Cohen, but it's a guy that it's the same. And this is the Velus Jones to Debo thing. I don't think it's important to put the name of a guy because that creates some expectation. Like, oh, he's Debo. No, Debo's a very special player that if he was available, every team would have one. But it's the role. The role is the operative word there. It's can he play the role of Debo? And the same thing with Ebner is can he play the role of what a Tariq Cohen is? An electric guy in the backfield that can generate home run potential by throwing him a screen or by working like, one of my favorite plays from last year was they had Demir Bird, who's not a running back by trade, but he was lining up in the backfield, and he ran a Texas route against Green Bay in that night game. Got across the linebacker's face, and because of the pure speed, it was a touchdown throw. And it wasn't a whole lot of work on Justin's part, just, hey, hit the running back and let the running back do the work. And that's that same idea, that same role of, sure, he can run outside zone. He can be a home run hitter there. And one thing he doesn't talk about in that clip, and maybe you have it, AC, and we'll get to it, but he talks about the idea that he has worked his entire career in a backfield that's being shared. He's not looking to be the primary workhorse. He understands that, and he said it. I've literally been kind of a 1A, 1B system my whole life. So sure, he can be that outside zone run guy, but I don't actually think that's necessarily what they were hoping. They weren't like, we need a guy that can really tote the rock 12 times a game. It's
right.
Hey, you're comfortable receiving and you can make people miss. Can we throw you a screen? Can we throw you a Texas route? Can we put you in the slot and ask you to kind of go out there and run like a little speed out and see if you can cut up and create some good plays? So I think that's the role for him.
Yeah, I haven't really looked at his size as far as to move him out as a wide receiver or anything. But
I think he's about 6 foot. Let's see.
Yeah.
Treston.
That's what I was thinking, is that he was around 6 feet or something. So yeah, just having that versatility to play inside or outside or in the backfield or wherever they want to stick him. We're definitely seeing this a lot. And Eberflus loves to rotate players and keep guys fresh, and which is great in the fourth quarter when you're gassed and hands on your hips. I mean, that's why we got off. That's why we got off the bus with our track shoes. Building that stamina up and then having your rotations. It all sounds good to me. It's the off season. Everyone's going to say the right things, but it sounds good to me.
Yeah, like before Chris goes real quick, I'll hit you with a deep cut. Like, and they're a little bit different of a player, but somebody said in the chat, like, he's just a receiver disguised as a running back. I don't know if you guys remember, but Dexter McCluster was the same type of player.
Yes.
A guy that was like a running back, but really he's kind of just like, just get him on the field and like get him the ball and see what he does. And we can put him at slot receiver. We can put him in the backfield, but it's this kind of versatile guy that isn't really defined by like, is he a running back or receiver? No, he's both.
Oh, he's 5'11". Yeah, whatever. About 5'11", 6 foot, whatever. But the kid has exceptional hands, and he's very good at running routes, man. You can put this kid in on third downs and spell David Montgomery or Khalil Herbert, however hell this damn scheme is gonna be, man. I'm just all over the place with that at running back. But yeah, you put this kid in at third down, like I said, you run him against a linebacker, and you hope that he catches something and he takes it to the crib. That's those we're getting home run hitters, and we're getting people that fit whatever this offense is, because you see a lot of these kids have position versatility, which is a good thing. Because like I said, no one outside of St. Brown literally you can sit here and say is going to be that X type body. Everybody can be slot, moved to the outside, or brought to the backfield. So I mean, you're starting to see what this offense is starting to shape up to be and what they want.
Yeah. And I got one final clip on here.
I mean, Dad, if you had that, sorry a second.
Man, I think you're on a delay or something, Chris, 'cause I'm trying to fill in so we don't have dead air.
Dead air.
Yeah.
I think I'm on a bit of a delay because but the only thing I'd add regarding the running back is I just think really we've got David Montgomery, who's like your old school sort of inside attacker running back, and also this guy will just give us that other option, another option where we can put him out wide or in the slot against the linebacker, or we can put him more on an outside zone running. So I'll be quite excited to see how they fit him in, really.
Yeah. Yeah, and don't forget about Khalil Herbert either. I mean, he had a heck of a pretty good year when he was called upon last year. I think we're really going to see this running back by committee. I don't know how that work translates to Montgomery getting a big extension, but I definitely think we're going to be a running back by committee this year, and you see it in this offense everywhere it is. I mean, you see it in LA and San Francisco, going down to Miami. They're bringing in a ton of running backs. So I think that's definitely the goal.
Yeah, I'll say one final thing. It's just that this is something I really picked up on, and I know maybe you call me crazy, but I don't think that there's any real blueprint or understanding of what Luke Getsy's scheme is. He didn't call plays at Mississippi State. He hasn't called plays outside of a preseason game or two with Green Bay. So what was really valuable in that to me is everybody's kind of said we think it's going to be outside zone. And sure, I mean, credit to those guys that had the right hint off. But, I was like, is it split zone? Is it inside zone? Is it wide zone? Is it outside zone? Like, what are we running? And sure, I'm sure you'll see a lot of different zone plays. Like I said, split zone, inside zone, outside zone. But it was nice to hear a player who's getting his hands on the playbook, who's green. He doesn't understand what to reveal and what not to say. Oh, yeah, I'm familiar with wide zone, and that's what we're really seeing. And so I think it's nice to get somewhat of a confirmation. Yeah. You've heard it with the offensive lineman. We want them skinny or thin and athletic. You've kind of seen some of the talk about what you think it'll be, but we're starting to really iron in that, oh, yes, indeed, Luke Getsy's running a wide zone scheme.
Yeah, we're just getting athletic freaks in the building, it seems like. I mean, speaking of athletic freaks, the last clip I have here is Eberflus talking about Robinson, who we talked about a little bit earlier. The dude's just, I mean, he was a 6'5" wide receiver who transferred over to defensive end. And I'll let Flus talk about it, and then we'll talk about it after.
Yeah, it's pretty neat when you think about it. A guy who's played, receiver and, different positions, and the skill set and the leanness of him. And you can kind of see that in his lowers. When you look at him, you can see it, as you watch him come around the corner. He does a good job of converting to power too, so he has that at the top of the rush. When you look at these defensive linemen that can turn the corner, he's always about, is everything pointing at the quarterback, your hips, your knees, your toes, and then that takes flexion. You got to be flexible to be able to do that. The great ones have always had that, and you guys have seen many of those. So he has that. How far that can go, I don't know, but he does have some of the attributes that you need to have.
Hello?
I can hear you.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I can hear you.
I'll just, I mean.
We were just ignoring you. We were just racing. That's all it was.
I was going to say, we all are colluding behind scenes. I was going to say, we're texting each other like, hey, so when AC comes back out of these video breaks, man, just be quiet. Don't say nothing to stop moving. So AC's like, wait, what's going on? What's going on?
I swear I thought I was disconnected for a second. But so Flus said everything that I wanted to hear. I mean, talking about the athleticism of Robinson, and like we said earlier, I think Quinn taking him under the wing is going to be it's going to help him out a lot. The guy's only been a defensive end for 2 years. I think I don't have the interviews from yesterday, but I think when they asked Robinson about it, he had said, he went into his coach's office and with the transfer rules the way they are now, he thought that his coach, he thought his coach thought he was going to train. He was going to tell him that he's transferring, but he actually went in there and was like, "Yeah, I'd like to move over to defense." And the coach was just, thrilled to hear that. You get a guy with those type of measurables, then sort of like a ball of clay that you can mold into however you want him to be. I mean, he's already got the body type to play that position, and I just thought it was a cool story about him.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this is outside of Brisker, and I like a lot of the draft class, but to me, Robinson was the one I was also most excited about initially, and it's only gotten stronger. And a lot of the things that he revealed in his interview yesterday, and just even Flus talking about him, is he presents a really interesting prospect. Like, he was talking about how he came into college at quarterback at 220, got up to 230 as a wide receiver, and how he's had to – and they asked him, like, how are you building weight? And he talked about getting with a nutritionist and trying to add healthy fats into his diet, avocados, different fish oils, things like that into his diet. And so he's now at around, I think he said 250-ish, which it's not enough. You need, like, in this scheme, you want, like, ideally 260, 270 to kind of hold up if you're really one of those only 4-down linemen. So, there's still room to grow. But what I really took and appreciated with him is he's another one of those guys, like, I'm married, I don't party, I've just tried to learn how to play this position and be about my business. I'm focused on gaining weight the right way. Another great thing that they talked about with him is, and he said it himself, he's raw and he only has one move. And, I talked about this last week, that part of what he has the advantage of is when you're a receiver, you're trying to literally beat the guy across from you with hand moves to get free. And he's going to be able to apply some of that as a D lineman as he's attacking offensive guys. But he admitted that he's raw and he only has one move. And, he's talked about having to switch his stance, but it's good that he's so aware of areas that he can improve. And, one of the things he talked about is how he had trouble converting speed to power. And, changing his stance helped that. And he's mentioned, and I just appreciated hearing some things that I saw on tape. Like, he had talked about how he had a great game, and this is when he felt the confidence knowing he could truly play defensive end at a high level, when he played Central Michigan. And Central Michigan produced Bernard Ryman and Luke Gadecki this year. And Gadecki was the second-round pick, who got to toot my own horn here a little bit. I was saying for months I liked Gadecki more than Ryman, and he went in the second round over Ryman, who went in the third. But he had actually – and I'm a huge Luke Gadecki fan. Robinson burned him on one, like, just completely. And Luke Gadecki's a technician. So it's one thing to beat a guy that's like, he's just Tyler Smith. He's playing with his hands at the hips, and he's not really a technician. Well, no, you're beating Luke Gadecki, a technician around the edge, and getting a sack. And he beat Ryman a couple times, and he had mentioned that right before the half he hurt his back, and it kind of just ruined the rest of the game for him. He wasn't able to perform. But this is a guy that flashes and has all the tools and traits and techniques that you're looking to see. And really, it's just about putting him on the right development plan. Let's get him a little heavier. Let's build his tool set of his hand moves. Let's work on his stance. And he's going to get, again, it's a different staff, so this one we'll really have to see. But you saw a lot of this same type of thing with Trevis Gibson when he came to the Bears. He had almost like a redshirt year as a rookie, where it was all about how do I play with standing up? I'm used to playing with my hand in the dirt. And if you can get that same developmental track where you're almost using Robinson as a DPR, a designated pass rusher, on third downs, and you're running your NASCAR package and bringing in more speed guys to get after the quarterback. I think I don't want to say he's the Mark Anderson role of yesteryear, if anybody remembers Mark Anderson, but he can be a real juicy edge player to produce some flash plays.
Well, I mean, thank God the Lions didn't take him second overall, because Aiden Hutchinson's ready now. Thank you, Don, for that information. We grabbed him in the 5th round, dude. Let's go watch a Lions show.
Don is funny, man. Like, hey, Don, I love Aiden Hutchinson.
I was watching these press conferences. Don's in all the chats, all of them.
Yeah,
hey,
he's on.
I just found out the motherfucker was real.
He's on the Chicago Bears.
I thought Don was fake, bro. He was on the Chicago Bears chat sports channel and called in.
I love Don. Don is the best closet Bears fan you've ever met.
God, I'm so serious.
They were calling him Don Bear on the press conference chat.
Hey, man.
Don Bear. Yeah, Don
Don Bear, bro.
You're the best Closet Bears fan I know. And like, as long as you're here, Don, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe. I mean, you're already hanging out in the chat of
He
every
sends
Bears
super
thing.
chats to Chat Sports, bro. Like, he pays money to get his chats off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Hey, Don, we love you over here, baby.
I got to figure out how to add that to our chat room.
Facts.
Yeah, man. I mean, I always imagine Don sitting there with loads and loads of like computer screens of all the different shows
like
of their
the CIA.
shows. And it's sort of like doing that, doing this, like making sure he's sort of going on every show what's on. But I love Don at Chat Sherman. I like it. That's one of the reasons why I got into American football is that soccer over in England. It's so sort of like. I don't know. The crowd can be so violent. The fan bases can be so violent with each other, especially when I was younger. You used to have all the hooliganism. And I like it when you can actually have a conversation with somebody from another club who supports another team. And you can just have a nice, conversation, intellectual conversation. But game on, Don. I always like Don in chat room, man. He's a star.
Yeah.
Apart from he supports a shit team.
Well, our schedule's supposed to come out in I think 4 days. So
The 12th,
next week we'll probably be talking about the schedule breakdown, and we'll talk about how, regardless of how the Detroit Lions did in the draft, we'll probably beat them because that's just what we do. I mean, we beat them with Trubisky, we beat them with Andy Dalton. We probably could have beat them with Mike Glennon because that's just what we do. I mean. We just beat the Lions no matter how hard they try. I mean, they made Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders say, "Fuck this, I don't want to play football anymore," because they hated playing in Detroit so much. In the prime of their careers.
When you root for such a bad team that can't find a way to win, like they're the only team in history to lose every single game of the season, I think your only move left is to start trying to become a fan of other teams like the Chicago Bears, probably in Packers chat and Vikings chat. Like, I mean, Don, you're just, I don't know, man. How do you even have time for Lions content? You're always hanging out in Bears rooms. So, whatever you do with your time.
Like my boy Chris said, my man got the CIA channel, goddamn hookups all over the place. Oh, they're on. Let me click.
I have to say, though, Berlissimo asked, is Chris watched from Hull? Chris, where are you from in England? Are you from Hull?
No, I'm not from Hull, mate. No, I'm from Leeds. So Hull's sort of on the coast, the east coast, but no, I'm from Leeds, so I'm like West Yorkshire. I'm a northerner, so no, I don't have any problem with anybody from Hull, though. They're all cool. But no, I'm from Leeds.
Okay, yeah, Berlissimo is Berlissimo. Where do you live in England? I know he's also in England, or London.
Oh, right, cool.
Yeah, maybe you guys can hang out.
Far away. It's not too far away.
Don, you're a funny man. I don't know. Just keep hanging out and supporting the channel. We appreciate having you here. And, maybe we'll send you some barroom content, some Barfly Tailgate shows. That way, maybe we'll bring you on. You can wear the shirt and everything since you're such a fan.
Well, you're not to buy my shirt.
All right. Yeah. I guess we don't have a whole lot more to talk about because we went through all my clips. I mean, if you'd like to go back and watch the interviews and press conferences from the other draft picks, I think they talked to Carter and they talked to the other offensive lineman, Braxton Jones, that they drafted. Those are pretty good press conferences.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all that I had loaded up on here because, Aldo's been working around the clock trying to get everything done, but you just can't get it all done every time. But we'll go ahead and close this out. We've been going for 2.5 hours now. So I'll let Jordan start us off with shout outs and anything else that he wants to talk about. And we'll go around the table here.
No, I just want to say thank you to the chat and Don Burr and Berlissimo and everybody kind of hanging out. It's nice to have a Lions fan caring about us so much. And, I want to thank also, of course, all of you gentlemen, AC, C-Dub, KB. It's always a joy talking Chicago Bears with you all, and this is always a good time. And I look forward to having another successful week and good Bears content so we can come back next week and hit it hard. But much love to everybody hanging out, and I hope this is enjoyable. And if you need anything, as I always say, I'm an open book. You can ask questions. We can talk Bears. You have me on my Twitter handle. It's Jordan T. Silvera. You can find me there, and I'm always open to talk football. Thanks, everybody.
KB, are those sirens going off behind you, brother?
No, man, it actually wasn't me. That's why I was looking around, bro.
I was like, is he going to have to go next? Because, all right, Chris, you go ahead and do yours, and then we'll go to KB, and I'll finish this off here.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, just want to say thanks to you guys. It's always a fucking dream, man, talking to you gents about Chicago Bears football, man, on a Sunday afternoon. It's great. I want to say thanks to everybody in the chat. Don Burr, I love you, mate, but you are, you do support a shit club, and it'll never change. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. This show was so interesting this week. To say that we're not in a season and we're not, it's been fascinating. It's been a really good show today. So just everybody have a good week and be good to each other and have a bit of respect for each other. And I'll see you next time. And bear down.
Bear down.
First off, I just want to start off by saying Happy Mother's Day to everybody out there. All you mothers, good family, single family, whatever, good, bad, and different. You know what I'm saying? We love y'all and we appreciate y'all doing your thing, man. We love all mothers. Second of all, shout out to y'all, man. Oh my God, y'all know what y'all do to me, man. It's like that French kiss from a good female when you get on here, you get to talk with your boys, man. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's how I feel, man. It just feels great to get on here and talk football, man, and talk about whatever other nonsense we got going on. I enjoy it thoroughly, man, and like I said, it's always been therapeutic. And lastly, man, shout out to the chat. Hit the like for us, man. Hit the like, please, man. Share it. Hit the like and share. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. I know this because I watch other people's stuff.
Yeah.
So, man, but like I said, man, hit the like for us, man. Like I said, we appreciate everybody gets in the chat. Chicago Bears fan, not a Bears fan. If you get on here and you're willing to listen to four assholes that you know what I'm saying are just fanalists, bro. We appreciate y'all taking the 2.5 hours out your day to do it. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody holding a gun to your head to make you do it. You're doing it because y'all love us. So we appreciate y'all and we love y'all. Like I said, man, we got hella content on all platforms, man. So if you're into baseball, football, basketball, if you like to watch goddamn figure skating on ice. I don't know, man. Whatever you do, man, we doing something for it. That's all I know, man. So like I said, man, hit the like for us, show some love. Then we love y'all back.
Yeah, KB, still my job over here, brother. Man, I mean, just like you said, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, the fathers that are playing both roles, foster parents, however you're raising your kids, man. Shout out to y'all. Today is definitely for you. Hopefully you can get out of here. I tried to get out of here at noon, but it didn't happen. Take your mama to brunch or something, brother. Definitely got to show love to your mama. I mean, everybody loves their mama, even Don Burr. But shout out to everybody. Yeah. I mean, she lets him live there rent free. So, I mean, she's a real nice lady, So shout out to everybody in the chat. Just like KB said, like, share, hit that subscribe button if you're a Chicago fan or you're not a Chicago fan. We got Crosstown Crosstalk where we talk about Cubs and White Sox, and the White Sox sweat my Cubs, and it's getting kind of tough for the Cubbies. They're on a bit of a losing streak, but we kind of saw this coming after kind of tearing it down a little bit last year. And we got Bulls talk on there. You got hockey talk if that's what you're into. I'm from the South, so I don't really follow hockey all that much. But if that's what you like, we got it right here on this channel. I mean, we talk about Marvel, streaming services, all that stuff right here on Bears Ballroom Radio Network. And so if you hit subscribe and watch all our stuff, shout out to Barlissimo. I haven't seen him in a minute, man. For real. Like, I know he's with Phil and them guys over at the tape never lies. That's another. They make incredible content as well. Former Ballroom associates. So shout out to Barlissimo for hopping in. Shout out to Don Burr, even though we know you're a closet Bears fan. Shout out to AC Adam, Chubbs in here. Matthew Fulchisi was in here earlier. I'm assuming he had to take his mama out. So that's why he popped out. But shout out to all y'all, and shout out to you guys, man. The Barfly Tailgate show, we had a new open there. I don't know if you guys saw it or not. Jordan is officially part of the team. Chris Watts as well. My boy KB hopped in late. I haven't heard from Bobby, so I'm not sure what's going on with him. But we're going to let him have the off season off if that's what he wants, because I know the Army, or the Army, he's going to be mad I said that. The Marines got him flying all over the place. He did get promoted to captain, and then they hadn't done anything for like 2 years with COVID, and now he's like every other weekend he's messaging us, yeah, they got me in a hotel, or I'm flying here, I'm flying there. It's like they're trying to make up for lost time with our boy Bobby. But so shout out to him, man, if he's listening, or if he gets on and listens later. But I guess we'll just shut it all down with a fat ass bear down.
Bear down.
No,
bear down, mate.
Bear down. I was on mute.